Hitler's birthday present, 420, and I'm not talking the number that everybody uses to describe marijuana, but 420 is also Hitler's birthday, April 20th. And, it's a big deal all around the world. There's an annual festival in Germany that draws over 100,000 people. It's not explicitly for Hitler's birthday, wink, wink, nod, nod. We have Nazi groups, neo-Nazi groups in Florida, Missouri, North Carolina, who have all organized events specifically to celebrate Hitler's birthday on April 20th. These include Adolf Hitler celebrations and gatherings marked as family-friendly to indoctrinate children into white supremacist ideology. In Georgia, a Georgia neo-Nazi posted a photo on social media of a swastika-decorated birthday cake that his girlfriend gave him in honor of Hitler's birthday. And at the Federal Correctional Facility in Florence, Colorado, a Hitler birthday celebration among white supremacist inmates escalated into a race riot involving over 200 prisoners, resulting in deaths as well as injuries. And this year, the celebration of Hitler's 136th birthday may be a bigger deal than past years, because that's the day that Donald Trump gets the report that tells him whether or not he can declare a state of emergency and invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. On January 20th, when he became president, when he was sworn in, one of the very first, it may well have been the first, executive orders he signed that day tasked his Secretary of Defense, now Pete Hegseth, and his Secretary of HHS, now Kristi Noem, to collaborate and inform him on April 20th, what a perfect date, right, on Hitler's birthday, whether or not he could suspend the Constitution, which is exactly what Hitler got on March 27th? I'd have to go back and look, but it was 53 days into Hitler's chancellorship that he got the Enabling Acts passed, which was essentially the same thing. They said, the president can violate the Constitution because it's a moment of national emergency. The national emergency that Hitler pointed to was economic. It was the Great Depression. The national emergency that Donald Trump is pointing to is immigrants coming across the southern border, which is, by the way, pretty much stopped. The German ambassador to the United States, who knows well the significance of Hitler's birthday, wrote about this danger in a confidential but leaked briefing document. He said, Donald Trump's agenda is one of maximum disruption, bringing about a redefinition of the constitutional order, maximum concentration of power with the president at the expense of Congress and the federal states. Basic democratic principles and checks and balances will be largely undermined. The legislature, law enforcement, and media will be robbed of their independence and misused as a political arm, and big tech will be given co-governing power. Now, he wrote this the week that Trump was sworn in for the German government and accurately predicted exactly what's going on. Of course, he's the German ambassador. I mean, the guy has read history. So when you start seeing the institutions of a country bending to the will of its leader, you know that you are quite a ways down the authoritarian road. And we're seeing this. Paul Wise and other major law firms have buckled to Trump. Republicans in Congress are using the threat of impeachment to attack judges, the independence of federal judges. Major multiple media outlets have already rolled over and are paying Trump off. You recall CBS gave him, or was it ABC, gave him $15 million. Multiple universities have caved into Trump's demands that he arrest and deport their foreign students. Most concerning, though, is what he has planned for Hitler's birthday, which is the day that he learns whether or not he'll have a document that will give a patina of legalism to his declaration. 420. Now, it may be that this is also the number for marijuana, but it appears to be a favorite of Elon Musk, just FYI. According to the Tesla website, April 20th is Elon Musk Day, a moment to celebrate the underappreciated genius. He once tweeted he was considering making Tesla private at $420. He acquired Twitter for $54.20 a share. He once tweeted, "I was born 69 days before 420." 2 minutes. But this year is the date, excuse me, that Trump gets his orders. And would he violate the Constitution? Would he break Would he violate posse comitatus? Well, he's already imposing illegal tariffs. The Constitution is quite clear. It's in Article 1, I believe Section 7, that maybe Section 9, that says that only Congress can impose tariffs. Now, I realize in 1973, I think it was, 74, Congress passed a law saying that in a state of emergency, the president could declare a tariff, which is what he's using right now, but that's a pretty thin gruel. Also, his deportations without due process are illegal under the Constitution. Trump doesn't care. He's doing them anyway. Trump taking millions from the Saudis for his live golf tournament over the weekend at his shabby golf resort. That's an illegal violation of the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution. He doesn't care. His hustling Tesla cars in front of the White House, it's an illegal violation of the Hatch Act. He could go to prison for that. He doesn't care. His hatchet man Musk, his wholesale firing of government employees and shutting down agencies that were created by Congress, that's illegal. He doesn't care. So we're long past the moment when our first felon president slipped into his criminal mode. The question now is how far he's going to go once he gets his Hitler's birthday present in roughly 2 weeks.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com. Hey, this is just a one-day fundraiser here. Please pay careful attention. For years, Free Speech TV has basically been missing something that has really kind of left some of our disabled or hard of hearing or whatever viewers kind of out in the cold, and that's closed captioning. So with your support today in this one-day fundraiser, we can fix this. Free Speech TV is launching a campaign to raise $10,000 to begin phasing in closed captioning across the network. They start with video on demand, bringing inclusive access to our most popular shows, but that's just the beginning. The long-term goal of Free Speech TV is make sure every Free Speech TV broadcast on air and online is fully accessible to everyone. So your donation today helps open the door to a more equitable future for Free Speech TV. And our frontline funders, Joe in D.C., Kelly in Denver, and an anonymous donor, have stepped up with $6,500 to match your donations. So your impact goes twice as far. So please, to support the efforts, go to freespeech.org/donate or call 877-378-8669. And while you're doing that, here's a very inspiring clip of President Franklin Roosevelt. I think you're going to love it. Here it is.
With hear nothing, see nothing, do nothing government. nation looked to that government, but that government looked away. 9 mocking years with the golden calf and 3 long years of the scourge. 9 crazy years at the ticker and 3 long years in the breadline. Nine mad years of mirage and 3 long years of despair. And my friends, powerful influences strive today to restore that kind of government with its doctrine that that government is best which is most indifferent to mankind. For nearly 4 years now, you have had an administration which, instead of twirling its thumbs, has rolled up its sleeves. And I can assure you that we will keep our sleeves rolled up. We had to struggle with the old enemies of peace, business and financial monopoly, speculation, reckless banking, class antagonism, sectionalism, war profiteering. They had begun to consider the government of the United States as a mere appendage to their own affairs. And we know now that government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob. Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
There you go. Franklin Roosevelt taking it to them, right? And that's something we're starting to see more and more from good Democrats out there. But anyhow, bottom line, this I believe this ad itself is going to be closed captioned, and that's really a cool thing. We want to do this for every show across the network, to make Free Speech TV more inclusive, more available, more easily accessed by a wider variety of people. And this is pretty important stuff, and it does cost money. I mean, it's going to cost Free Speech TV. I mean, like I said, we try to raise $10,000 today, right now. And so if you would call 877-378-80.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, happy Friday, TGIF, Shabbat Shalom, Juma Mubarak. It's the end of the week. It's the beginning of the weekend. And, arguably, most of us have to work on Fridays, but still we can kind of, have one foot into it. We have a lot to talk about today. Just you and me, all 3 hours. It's Anything Goes Friday, whatever you'd like to talk about. UFOs on your mind or pigeons as spies. Anyhow, we have some of the topics I want to get into today in the first hour. Gutting the weather watchers when tyrants rewrite the forecast. What the hell is going on with this? Also, Trump's military parade. Isn't this just propaganda by spectacle? The kind that makes autocracy feel normal? And a stupid alert. Republican congressman slips up and tells the truth by accident on Fox News. And the Trump administration is caught in a massive Social Security lie that is actually hurting people on people who are trying to sign up for Social Security right now. In the second hour of our program, Georgia is forcing a brain-dead woman. Actually, they're forcing her family to sit around and watch. I mean, she's gone, but her body is still there and her heart is still beating to complete her pregnancy, although she's on a ventilator, and her family has to foot the bill. Yeah.
Also, Trump ordered 15,000 workers to snitch, and not one did. This is interesting. And a crazy alert. Why is the Department of Homeland Security looking at creating a reality show where immigrants compete for citizenship? Hunger Games much? In the third hour of our program, how Donald Trump's emergency powers could become permanent, the lessons from ancient Rome and modern autocracies. And Geeky Science, does 7,000 steps keep cancer away? Some just startling new science. Turns out it doesn't matter how hard you exercise, it just matters how far you walk. And it can be broken up into all kinds of little pieces. So we'll get into all that in the third hour. A lot to talk about. I want to start out with my piece today over at HartmannReport.com, our daily take, gutting the weather watchers when tyrants rewrite the forecast. I mean, this is just absolutely crazy. The so-called Department of Government Efficiency, which is not a department, it was not created by Congress. They are systematically destroying the agencies that keep Americans alive when Mother Nature comes calling. And for what? Some twisted ideological experiment that's going to cost lives? Or to suck up to fossil fuel billionaires? Or because Vladimir Putin told Trump and Musk to do this? I mean, what's the deal here? The National Weather Service is falling apart, and the hurricane season starts in just a few months. Maybe a few weeks, actually. I'm not sure exactly when it officially starts. The tornado season certainly started in the Midwest this week. And now the National Weather Service has 155 empty jobs that should have been filled with forecasters. Actually, they had 155 empty jobs. Now they've got far more than that. Tom Fahey from the National Weather Service Employees Organization, their union, nailed it. He told the Washington Post, for most of the last half century, the National Weather Service has been a 24/7 operation. Not anymore, thanks to Elon Musk. So, you know, picture this. You've got a Cat 4 hurricane cranking up through the Gulf of Mexico. We're not sure, is it going to hit Orlando or, you know, Tampa? Is it going to hit the Panhandle? Is it going to hit Alabama? Is it going to end up in Houston? Nobody knows. And we still don't know because the National Weather Service doesn't know. I mean, NOAA started this year, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration started this year with over 600 vacant positions. And instead of filling those jobs, Musk fired illegally, in my opinion, or pushed out another 10% of the remaining staff. I mean, they're literally making the problem worse. Last month, the National Weather Service had to stop launching weather balloons at several sites and gut their data collection operations. Why? Because they don't have enough people. Those balloons are not toys. That's how we know which way the weather's moving. There's another insane part of this. NOAA's weather data generates $9 in economic value to the country for every $1 we spend on it, and benefits the U.S. to the tune of over $5 billion a year. That's the kind of return on investment that makes, you know, venture capitalists just weep with joy. But Musk and Trump are torching it anyway. This, by the way, this attack on NOAA, on the National Weather Service and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, fits perfectly with their broader war on climate science. I mean, you know, they're taking apart EPA. The Interior Department is turning federal lands over to the fossil fuel industry for development. You know, but with regard to the weather, well, you know, if the Weather Service keeps telling us the severe weather is unusual and you know, is probably caused by global warming, well, we might be less inclined to let the fossil fuel billionaires make another $1 trillion. Can't have that. And don't get me started on what they're doing to FEMA. I mean, they're gutting the agency that coordinates disaster relief just in time for hurricane season. And what's really ironic about this is that the states that that are hard hit the most hard hit states, are the red states. I mean, look at the entire Gulf Coast is all red states, right? Every single one of them. And here come the hurricanes. And sometimes they even go way beyond that. Remember when North Carolina got whacked? Asheville got damaged last year when Hurricane Helene came through? It was FEMA that at least started the process of putting a lot of this back together, although now FEMA is turning down individual states, including red states. So Marjorie Taylor Greene has the solution. She says that, you know, yes, they can control the weather. So yeah, Marge, bring out those Jewish space lasers and let's get this thing under control. except that it really isn't about controlling the weather. It's about controlling the information. If people don't know about the disasters that are coming or understand why they're getting worse, then they don't do anything about it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Was it Putin or the fossil fuel billionaires who told Trump and Musk to do this? I mean, I can't think of any other reason. It's got to be one or the other, right? How screwing with the National Weather Service that, as I mentioned, produces $8 or $9 in revenue for every dollar that we spend on it. Or not revenue, but benefit to society. I mean, measurable benefit to society. This is just crazy. We can't let them finish this demolition job. We need to be reaching out to our elected representatives and raising some hell. And if we can't stop them, at the very least, let's make sure that everybody knows who caused this disaster when this disaster comes. Also in the news, the price tag for Trump's military birthday party could reach $45 million and will involve dozens of warplanes, hundreds of Army vehicles, thousands of soldiers. It's Trump's 79th birthday. And it's got a lot of veterans really seriously pissed off because he wants to spend $45 million on his birthday party, but he's gutting the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Veterans Administration, the VA. And he keeps expanding this. Now the parade is going to be a week-long celebration of Trump's birthdays. Other events include an Army run at Fort Myers. The Army's Golden Knights are going to parachute down to the Ellipse, where there will be a presidential reviewing stand where they can just march by Trump and salute him like they do in, Russia and Cuba and, the bleachers and a concert stage. I mean, this is just wild. Trump is just going full-on dictator. And he probably got, a lot of this started, France does this, and France, of course, isn't a dictatorship, far from it, in fact. But, ever since World War II, they fought a damn war, right? Ever since World War II, they've done these military parades. And Trump was over there in 2018, and he was so impressed, he came back and he said, I want one of those too. But he didn't get it in 2018. He's going to get it this year. But this is, Trump is just so, he's so in love with dictator chic. Dictator, he wants this airplane, this airplane that the Qataris have been trying to sell for the last 5 years. It's parked down in Dallas, down in Texas. They can't get rid of it. They already gave one of them away. They had a couple of them that were, surplus and that they tried to sell, and they cost a fortune just to maintain them. You've got to do maintenance and you got to keep the oil and the liquids and everything. I mean, you can't just park it someplace and think that it'll be still functional when you come back. And it's very expensive. So they gave one to the dictator of Turkey, Erdogan. And now they want to give the other one to Trump, right? So this is, but this is, he's covered the Oval Office in gold. I mean, it's just, this guy is so tacky, so gaudy. He's into, the pimp style, for lack of a better phrase. Meanwhile, a Republican on Fox News accidentally speaks the truth. Oh, this is hysterical. I'll tell you about that after the break, and I'll pick up your calls here on Anything Goes Weekend. Stick around.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We're right back with your calls and this one story about Congressman Jason Smith. He kind of stepped in, and I'll tell you all about that. And welcome back, Nate in Detroit, Michigan. Hey, Nate, what's on your mind today?
Tom, it's great to talk to you again. I've always wanted to bring this topic up, and this is coming out of the spirit of what I always thought your best book is which is Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. And it's what is wrong with us and what's wrong with our civilization. And I firmly believe it's coming from we don't know who we are, we don't know where we came from, and we don't know what we're capable of. And just to preface this, 2 MIT professors wrote a book called Hamlet's Mill, and this is what they wrote. And this provides some pretty important context. And these guys were double PhDs. And this is talking about precession, and this is a long time, about 2,500 years for one zodiacal sign to pass through, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
So the ancients fully observed and understood precession. This is paraphrasing it, and encoded it in their myths and legends. And
I thought these were 27,000 year cycles.
right, the great year is about 27 years, or 27,000 years. So they say that this was they either knew this and observed this, which would have taken a hell of a long time for them to do, or it was passed down to them by an almost unbelievable progenitor civilization from remote antiquity. Now, the second part is Darwinian evolution and how it breaks down in humans. And we're always looking for this missing link. The way in which it's presented, it's created this situation where we have this false impression that we're nothing more than highly advanced or highly evolved apes. And I'll concede that we share 97% of our DNA with chimps. We also share about 50% of it with bananas. Which one are we, 97% chimp or 50% bananas?
I think we're products of evolution, of an evolutionary process. I think that's fairly clear.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, when you look at human chromosome number 2, there's scientific papers being presented where it seems like there was a telomere to telomere edit that basically made us human. And they don't have an explanation because that could not happen through a process of evolution. Francis Crick himself said that DNA was far too complex to have ever been created over millions of years of random adaptation and mutations.
Yeah,
I just firmly believe, and I understand. I mean, this stuff is, it gets crazy. I mean, the amount of out-of-place artifacts that have been found, like in the Ural Mountains, they found these microscopic microtubules that resemble the early control elements in our nanotechnology. They're made of tungsten and molybdenum, anywhere from 3 centimeters to 1/10,000th of an inch. Molybdenum doesn't occur naturally on this earth. It has to be synthesized.
Molybdenum is one of the elements.
No, molybdenum does not occur naturally on Earth.
No.
Well, if it does, okay.
I mean, there's a few in the transactinides. You know, a few of the radioactive elements that have such a short half-life.
Sure, but when you start to look at
molybdenum is not one of them. It's just a rare earth.
Okay, sure, but when you start to look at what these things look like and how they, why were they buried at depths of 5 to like 20 meters?
You know, I'm willing to believe, Nate, that there are advanced civilizations out there. I mean, there's more stars than there are grains of sand on Earth. I mean, you know, it's just so sure, intelligence out there, but that doesn't mean that somebody came here and modified our DNA. I mean, you know.
Oh no, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that there's some really interesting things that in our past that we don't give enough.
Oh yeah, I'm fascinated by that kind of stuff. Have you ever read Eric von Daniken?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, but I don't like the ancient astronaut theory. I think it's us.
Okay. Nate, I got to run. Thanks for the call. 20 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com.
The radar dome is dark tonight. The screens are running blind. Storms out there in the Gulf again, but no one's got the time. The forecasters were furloughed. The warnings came too late. Another town goes under while the tyrants seal our fate. They gutted every agency that kept us safe and sound, called it efficiency while they burned it to the ground. No science left in sight, just chaos in its place. And Mother Nature doesn't wait while fools erase the base. When tyrants rewrite the forecast, the sirens don't cry out. The maps go blank, the lines go dead, and no one hears the shout. They sell off truth for power, leave the rest of us to drown. When tyrants rewrite the forecast, the burning cities down. no eyes bleeding talent. The data's running dry. Weather balloons are grounded now. We watch the silence fly. They trade the common good for gold, dismiss the rising seas, while families lose their future in a storm they didn't see. And who gains from all this blindness? Who profits from the fall? The men who own the satellites but never hear the call. They fear the truth of carbon, so they bury all the proof. And every hurricane they hide is one step from the truth. When tyrants rewrite the forecast, the flood is not a fluke. It's policy with purpose, dressed up in a business suit. They'd rather see destruction than admit they got it wrong. When tyrants rewrite the forecast, it's time to rise up strong.
It was on Fox News yesterday. This is hysterical. They were talking, he was being asked about the big, beautiful bill, and this spending bill. And of course, what they want to do to Medicaid recipients is, number one, they want to require them to pay for some of their care. So, now you've got to pay a premium or a copay, basically, every time you go to the doctor or do anything else. They also want to pay, if you make more than $15,550 a year, they want people to pay even more. Apparently, 15 grand a year is like big bucks, right? And they're going to knock 10.3 million Americans off Medicaid altogether. So anyhow, Congressman Smith appeared on Fox News on the Will Cain Show, and he says he was talking about the state and local tax SALT, exemption, and then he gets into Medicaid, and he says, I would say that SALT is one of those items that we have to thread, and you can look at the Medicaid cuts, Medicaid reforms, I should say. Yeah. Remember when they were promising that they wouldn't cut Medicaid? It was just a week ago. Mike Johnson, Donald Trump, oh no, we're not going to cut Medicaid. We would never cut Medicaid. Are you kidding? Poor people? Children? No. Nursing homes? Old people? No, not going to happen. And here it is, almost $800 billion in cuts to Medicaid, all to pay for tax cuts, tax breaks for Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and Donald Trump. Sweet work if you can get it, right? All right, Anything Goes Weekend. What's on your mind? Russ in Hickory Hill, Illinois. Hey, Russ, what's up?
Yeah, Tom, I'm calling you. I want your opinion. If we win the 28 election, come 29, January 22nd, would this whole administration be put up on charges of, I don't care what it is, espionage, insights trading, selling secrets to the Russians? Because you know and I know, Tom, Donald Trump's going to duck and they're going to take it right in the face. Him and Elon Musk, they're going to Saudi Arabia. Because let's be honest, you got J.D. Vance running.
Yeah.
Us old timers, Tom, this will put you back in your chair. This guy's weak. Remember Dan Quayle, how weak he was?
Yeah, I do.
And you're going to run this guy as the vice president to run? Let's be honest, Tom. An Afro-American just won in Omaha, Nebraska by 14 points.
I know.
Sentiments among Republicans.
Against an incumbent who was doing a good job,
today.
Actually. A Republican incumbent who was doing a pretty good job. And nonetheless.
Yeah, and he lost by 14 points.
I know.
Today, the sentiments came out. It's 50.8. It was supposed to be 53.8. Among they said 7 points among Republicans. Yeah. They've dropped above Trump. Yeah. I'm telling you, Tom, this guy's got to go to prison, and you got to think of the Supreme Court going with him, and they don't get out for 4 years.
Well, he's already been convicted of 34 felonies. That were all related, by the way, to election interference. He's been convicted of fraud around the 2020 or the 2016 election. His payoff to Stormy Daniels, and so.
Because it's big bank, Tom.
Yeah, serve his sentence. Time for him to serve his sentence. Russ, thank you for the call. 27 minutes past the hour. It's Anything Goes Weekend on this beautiful Friday. I'll be back with more of your calls on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. I'll be right back with your calls. Hey, this is just a one-day fundraiser here. Please pay careful attention. For years, Free Speech TV has basically been missing something that has really kind of left some of our disabled or hard of hearing or whatever viewers kind of out in the cold, and that's closed captioning. So with your support today in this one-day fundraiser, we can fix this. Free Speech TV is launching a campaign to raise $10,000 to begin phasing in closed captioning across the network. They start with video on demand, bringing inclusive access to our most popular shows, but that's just the beginning. The long-term goal of Free Speech TV is make sure every Free Speech TV broadcast on air and online is fully accessible to everyone. So your donation today helps open the door to a more equitable future for Free Speech TV. And our frontline funders, Joe in D.C., Kelly in Denver, and an anonymous donor, have stepped up with $6,500 to match your donations. So your impact goes twice as far. So please, to support the efforts, go to freespeech.org/donate or call 877-378-8669. And while you're doing that, here's a very inspiring clip of President Franklin Roosevelt. I think you're going to love it. Here it is.
With hear nothing, see nothing, do nothing government. The nation looked to that government, but that government looked away. 9 mocking years with the golden calf and 3 long years of the scourge. 9 crazy years at the ticker and 3 long years in the breadline. 9 mad years of mirage and 3 long years of despair. And my friends, powerful influences strive today to restore that kind of government with its doctrine that that government is best which is most indifferent to mankind. For nearly 4 years now, you have had an administration which, instead of twirling its thumbs, has rolled up its sleeves. And I can assure you that we will keep our sleeves rolled up. We had to struggle with the old enemies of peace, business and financial monopoly, speculation, reckless banking, class antagonism, sectionalism, war profiteering. They had begun to consider the government of the United States as a mere appendage to their own affairs. And we know now that government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob. Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
There you go. Franklin Roosevelt taking it to them, right? And that's something we're starting to see more and more from good Democrats out there. But anyhow, bottom line, this I believe this ad itself is going to be closed captioned, and that's really a cool thing. We want to do this for every show across the network, to make Free Speech TV more inclusive, more available, more easily accessed by a wider variety of people. And this is pretty important stuff, and it does cost money. I mean, it's going to cost Free Speech TV. I mean, like I said, they're trying to raise $10,000 today, right now. And so if you would call 877-378-8669 with a donation of any amount that you can, that you feel comfortable with, it will, and like I said, it'll be doubled. We've got frontline funders who have said that they will match your donation up to $6,500. So that's a pretty big deal. So please call now or go to freespeech.org/donate and make your contribution so that we can expand the ability or the number of people who are able to access Free Speech TV. Thank you so much for your concern. Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at tom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out. Welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. I want to just do a quick follow-up on my initial rant about Trump's birthday parade that is now turning into a week-long celebration of dear leader's 79th birthday. This is how you create a political cult of personality. First of all, celebrations like this, where Trump's in the reviewing stand and they parachute in front of him and all this kind of stuff. They elevate Trump above the nation, essentially, which is why he wants it. It also signals loyalty to a leader rather than to the laws of the nation, rather than to the rule of law. And it plays perfectly into this strongman propaganda that undermines the norms of civilian control of the military. Not a good thing. It's undermining civilian military norms. Typically the military has been apolitical. But using the military to celebrate Trump's birthday, not apolitical. In fact, it drags the military into partisan theater. It sends a message to military members that they should be loyal to Trump and not to the nation. This happened when Trump, on his last day, when he was at the UAE, and he had a bunch of American soldiers there, and he gave a campaign speech. He used his campaign songs. He trash talked Joe Biden. He trash talked America to our troops. And this is just wrong. It's the kind of stuff that, Erdogan would do. It's the kind of stuff that, it's just, and also, parades like this and celebrations of his birthday, they intimidate your political opponents. They signal a readiness for violence. Yes, we're going to use the military is about violence, right? And they echo the aesthetics of fascism. And this is not something that I think most Americans want. It's also a misuse of taxpayer funds and resources. These are enormously expensive events. It's going to cost $45 million. It's going to divert our military from other things that are important. It's going to rip up the streets of Washington, D.C. and cost the city a damn fortune. And it's psychological conditioning of the public. It numbs the population essentially to authoritarian aesthetics, to the erosion of democratic norms, and to this slow but steady march, which actually has accelerated dramatically in the last 3 months, toward a militarized government. This is basically propaganda by spectacle. It's normalizing spectacle. So anyway, just wanted to share those thoughts with you. All right, back to your calls. What's up mind today. Anything goes weekend here. Keno, happy Frias Day. Keno, how you doing?
You beat me to it again. Happy Frias Day, Tom.
Yeah.
But I got some bad news, Tom. It's just come to my attention. Now think of this phrase: "It's better to be naked rather than wearing toxic clothes." There's a man who's a clothes designer named Jeff. Garner, and he has a book called "Better to Be Naked." And he's got a new documentary that's going to be released in a couple of months. Better to Be Naked, and he's discovered that there's toxic chemicals from these artificial fibers in clothes that have hormone disruptors, and especially in women's bras. These artificial chemicals from petrochemicals and so on may be causing cancer and breast cancer in women, and this needs to be checked out. He's done some basic research, but he wants it checked out more further, and so we need to be aware of this. And his documentary is going to be coming out now. He's supposed to have a bettertobinaked.com gives information about his research, but I think this is something that needs to be brought to the public's attention.
That's fascinating, Keno. And also, a lot of the fabrics now that have plastic, compounds in them, the polyester and things like that, and some of the stretch fabrics. These things are constantly shedding micro and nanoplastic particles as well that you then inhale.
And absorbed by our bodies. Now, he advocates like organic cotton and hemp cloth, especially for women's bras. Yeah. And but this is something new. Another thing to worry about. I know, but
and linen. And linen would be another one. And wool, I guess. Those would be natural fibers, fabrics. Basically.
I knew a guy that said when he had to wear suits, the polyester suits were so uncomfortable, he went to wool. Wool suits were even more comfortable in the summer where he worked than polyester. But anyway, Jeff Garner is this guy's name, and bettertobinaked.com.
Okay, I'll check it out. Keno, thank you for that. It's always nice hearing from you, and you always bring something interesting. I appreciate it. Joe in Seattle. Hey, Joe, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Happy Friday.
Thank you. Back at you.
Hey, my question is, in your opinion, why is our U.S. healthcare so broken?
Profit, money. I remember back, prior to the Reagan Revolution, when every health insurance company in the country, or I believe everyone, it certainly was the case in Michigan, this was a state law, were required to be nonprofits, and all the hospitals were required to be nonprofits. There were 3 hospitals in Lansing, Sparrow, St. Lawrence, and Ingham Medical. All 3 are now for-profit institutions. All 3 were nonprofits at the time. Actually, St. Lawrence, it may still be a Catholic hospital, but in any case, it's, it used to be cheap. Medicine used to be cheap. Doctors used to do house calls. I remember that too. I'm old enough to remember the doctor coming to my house when I was a little kid. And then after the Reagan Revolution, it all became, hey, let's figure out how to make everything into profit. And healthcare was, ripe for the picking, because, it's essential. You have to have health care, you die. So, it's the ultimate, health care and food and shelter. These are areas that are intrinsic to survival. And so they're areas where you can profit off them, and people basically have no choice but to give you those profits. Is that what you had in mind, Joe?
Yeah, I've been reading on that United Healthcare is under investigation by the FBI for $2 billion of corruption and graft.
Yeah, they're being investigated for Medicare Advantage fraud by CMS. I saw that in the paper last week. I wrote a whole book about this, The Hidden History of American Healthcare. It's a really grim story. You can get the book for free at any library. I recommend you check it out. Joe, thanks for the call. Jessica in Chicago. Hey, Jessica, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I want to say I'm so sorry about your loss of Fang.
Yeah, my cat.
I remember when you had a show during COVID in your home office, and Fang came in and he jumped on your lap.
Yes. Yeah.
And he loved you so much. I loved when you would see everyone's pets.
Yep.
That was fun. So I'm happy a few senators are speaking out that Trump cannot accept that hand-me-down 14-year-old jet from Qatar. And the idiot really doesn't understand and realize it wouldn't be safe. You had a caller on that explained some of those reasons. But the Republicans can just vote in a golden toilet update for Air Force One to satisfy the little baby raging about it.
Well, Boeing's been building 2 new Air Force Ones for 5-6 years now. I mean, Trump commissioned them, and they're still in construction.
Yeah, I wonder why it's so slow. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a $2 billion project. Well, Boeing has problems, shall we say? But I'm guessing that those jets are going to be available in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and we definitely need that baby balloon at the White House and at our protests.
Yes.
Oh, and one interesting fact: Saudi Arabia's tariffs are only 10%. Of course, they're really low.
Do we import anything from Saudi Arabia other than terrorism?
Yeah. Nope, I'd say that's it.
I think our last big import from Saudi Arabia was 9/11, wasn't
it? Yeah, you're right. And Tom, you are so good at talking sense into those right-wing callers. I remember police officers never wore masks during COVID.
Yeah.
But when it comes to illegally arresting migrants, they don't want to be identified, just like El Salvadorian officers. So that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, they're trying to avoid, future liability. They don't want to be held accountable for what they're doing, and I think it's just so wrong, and it should be forbidden. We shouldn't allow it. Jessica, thank you. Thanks for the call. It's always nice to hear from you. I appreciate it. It is in about a half a minute here. It'll be 45 minutes past the hour, 1:45. We'll be back with more of your calls here on Anything Goes Weekend. Stick around. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, taking back the mainstream media 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, right here.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Exposing the con in conservative. I'll be right back with your calls. And welcome back. Paul in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hey, Paul, thanks for watching Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I'm the guy, if you remember, about 3 or so years ago, I called in with an acupuncturist that was so good that they cured my Republicanitis.
I vaguely remember that, Paul, yeah.
Well, I ran for state rep a few years ago, and you asked me to keep you up to date, so I thought I'd keep you up to date. Remember, New Mexico surprisingly has 3 U.S. reps and 2 senators. They're all Democrat, yet Trump won my district by 10%. We're about a half hour south of Albuquerque, so it's pretty rural. So I lost 60-40, which was not unexpected. I mostly ran because...
running for the U.S. Congress or for the state legislature?
State representative.
Okay.
And so I lost 60-40, which, I kind of expected.
Yeah.
So in 2022, I let the Democrats know, hey, if you can't find anybody, I'll be happy to run again. I got the website and so on. They said, nah, we got this. So 2 days before the signatures were due to get on the ballot, the candidate they had gotten got threatened and he dropped out without enough time to substitute anybody else. So I managed to run as a write-in and obviously didn't win because I was a write-in. I just wanted something there in case something happened to the main candidate. So fast forward to 2024. They found another guy to run for, this is state representative again. And I offered to run again, and they said, nah, we got this. And a different candidate also was threatened and dropped out 2 days before the end. The signatures were due to get on the ballot. So they had nothing. And I tried to register again for write-in, but they said because I was a registered Democrat, I couldn't. And so he ran unopposed. And I received 6 emails from him soliciting for money to have so that he could continue to fight for us.
In a race where he had no opposition.
Right.
Wow.
So that's interesting. So in 2026, I've re-registered as independent, not only because I can't stand the feckless Democrats, but that the independents have another 3 weeks to get on the ballot. So if they pull that crap again, I can qualify as an independent for the ballot.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, Paul.
The other thing I was going to mention was, to make a long story short, the regulatory agencies are supposed to protect consumers, don't work in New Mexico. I have personal direct knowledge. Judicial standards don't require judges to follow rules. The bar doesn't require lawyers to follow ethics. And the Office of Superintendent of Insurance doesn't protect consumers like their mission statement says they're supposed to.
Is this what you're running on, Paul, is fixing that?
Well, I'm trying to do that now, even without running.
Yeah.
The other thing that came to mind on a different subject, I sent some money from free speech. I'm turning 73 this year, so I have required minimum distributions. But if you go directly from your IRA to a charity, a qualified charitable distribution has no tax ramifications for you, and that's true for anybody.
I didn't know that. That's fascinating.
So, yeah, a lot of people don't. So you don't have to take money out of an IRA, pay taxes on it, and then donate it. You can just have the IRA cut a check directly for the charity.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you for that information. Paul, good luck. Good luck in 2026. Thanks for the call. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us.
They came in through the back door, no badge, no name, no oath, just billionaires in boardrooms, writing laws for both. They say it's for the people to streamline and revise, but the Department of Government Efficiency is a lie.
Welcome back. 10 minutes before the hour, picking up your calls here. Jim in Skokie, Illinois. Hey, Jim, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. What's on your mind, Jim?
Wonderful. I got a suggestion for a book that you should write, and it's The Hidden History of the UFO Cover-Up.
Okay. That would be a fascinating one to research.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is.
What do you know about it?
Also, I have yes. Oh, I know a lot, actually. I saw a UFO back in 1975, and, of course, I've been interested in the subject ever since. It seems like a lot of people, when they observe one of these anomalous craft, they kind of get the itch to know more about it, and that happened to me.
Yeah, I've seen him twice. With my dad in the backyard in 1958. I was 7 years old, and then driving near Stonehenge with Nigel Peacock, who helps with this show, and we were driving along the motorway there, and this. I don't know how else to describe it. It came, was zipping along, stopped in midair for a while, made a left turn, and then zoom, just vanished.
There you go. So you know the real. I wondered why you call out every Friday the subject matter of UFOs, but now I know why.
Oh yeah, I like you. I like I told an earlier caller. I mean, I'm absolutely comfortable believing that there are advanced civilizations in the universe, that some of them have visited our planet at times in the past, and perhaps are even right now. It just makes perfect sense.
No doubt.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to say there are some people in the UFO sphere who actually believe that that extraterrestrials have been on our planet for as long as we have.
Yeah.
And, living in, they have bases in the deep oceans and, remote mountains and all that. So
I'm kind of skeptical about that, but I'll tell you, I went through the Mayan Museum in I think it was Cancun. It was somewhere. We were on a Mexican summer vacation or spring vacation with the family, and they've got this little museum. I'm pretty sure it was Cancun. I might be wrong, but it might be like Tulum or something like that. But and it's like all this stuff that's like 2,000-3,000 years old, and it looks like spaceships. Guys with helmets and leaning back in a chair with a control panel in front of them and a stick, and it's like, holy cow! These guys are these are pictures of people flying spaceships. So
absolutely. That's why as so many old ancient cultures talk about the star people and everybody since the
the Doga. There's an African tribe that has Steve Larson wrote a whole book about them. People with
Dogon,
stars. The Doga.
Yeah, it's a Dogon, and they knew that Sirius was a binary star,
right?
And which wasn't discovered until the early 1900s, and they actually integrated it into their cosmology, to their religion.
Yeah, they believe that they had been visited, if not that they even came from there. But yeah,
sure. I have a suggestion for a guest, and he's a Republican, but he's one of a very, very open-minded Republican. I don't think he's a MAGA Republican. Certainly, it's Tim Burchett of Tennessee, and he's a gentleman who's believes in Christ. I think like you do, but he's been in the skiff, and he says he's openly said that what he's seen in the skiff. There's absolutely no doubt in his mind that ET extraterrestrials are buzzing around, as well as the government has.
And look at the
crashes.
Yeah, look at the cockpit videos from some of these Navy fighter pilots. I mean, some of the stuff is just absolutely wild. On the other hand, I mean, there might be some advanced weaponry out there that they're spotting, but my mind is open on this, Jim. Jim, I got to move along, but thank you for the call. It's great to hear from you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for dealing with the subject, Tom.
My
and
pleasure.
I invite anyone in your audience who has any more information or has seen a UFO to call in.
Okay, there you go. Thanks, Jim. Robin in Kingston, Washington. Hey, Robin, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I'm going to take a semi-oppositional point of view, not to you, but to some of your listeners and viewers. I am looking at Trump 2 as a positive opportunity to fix things after the Trump regime is over. The concept is well known, build back better. And this is an opportunity to kind of tweak some things the way we want them that we haven't had for 250 years from the founding. So I'm going to ask all of your listeners and viewers to just get a notebook, take some notes, and when these thugs are gone, let's get it back together. And
well, I would point out, Robin, in agreement with you, by the way, that Herbert Hoover's administration, from 1928 to 1932, was one of the greatest gifts to America, because the Great Depression was so severe that he and Harding and Coolidge had created through massive deregulation and tax cuts. It was so severe that it led to a rebooting of the American government into literally a brand new era. I mean, we reinvented government as a result of that. So it's entirely possible that this Trump debacle will be, when it's over. I mean, it'll be four years down the road, but in all probability. But when it's over, there will be an opportunity for America to renew itself in ways that we haven't seen in 80 years. And that, by the way, comports with Neil Howe's idea of the every 80-year, rebooting in America.
Right. Well, before I get to Toximap, the concept that I would ask people to do is we have a comparison, and that is Project 2025, which is their best shot, versus the Green New Deal. So intellectually, that's a way that you can start to jog notes. But I also wanted to call and give an example of the power of people and just formally announce that my daughter's major project called Toximap, .com has launched yesterday, and Toximap is basically a library in the sky to find out what toxins are around your neighborhood.
Really?
Should you want to know?
TOXIMAP.com?
TOXIMA2Ps, PP.com. So the data comes from the EPA. Anyways, and it's updated.
Robin, I got to
all the
run.
time.
I'm sorry, but that's great. Thank you for sharing that. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
When Donald Trump declared he would...
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
Hey, this is just a one-day fundraiser here. Please pay careful attention. For years, Free Speech TV has basically been missing something that has really kind of left some of our disabled or hard of hearing or whatever viewers kind of out in the cold, and that's closed captioning. So with your support today in this one-day fundraiser, we can fix this. Free Speech TV is launching a campaign to raise $10,000 to begin phasing in closed captioning across the network. They start with video on demand, bringing inclusive access to our most popular shows, but that's just the beginning. The long-term goal of Free Speech TV is make sure every Free Speech TV broadcast on air and online is fully accessible to everyone. So your donation today helps open the door to a more equitable future for Free Speech TV. And our frontline funders, Joe in D.C., Kelly in Denver, and an anonymous donor, have stepped up with $6,500 to match your donations. So your impact goes twice as far. So please, to support the efforts, go to freespeech.org/donate or call 877-378-8669. And while you're doing that, here's a very inspiring clip of President Franklin Roosevelt. I think you're going to love it. Here it is.
With hear nothing, see nothing, do nothing government. The nation looked to that government, but that government looked away. 9 mocking years with the golden calf and 3 long years of the scourge. 9 crazy years at the ticker and 3 long years in the breadline. Nine mad years of mirage and 3 long years of despair. And my friends, powerful influences strive today to restore that kind of government with its doctrine that that government is best which is most indifferent to mankind. For nearly 4 years now, you have had an administration which, instead of twirling its thumbs, has rolled up its sleeves. And I can assure you that we will keep our sleeves rolled up. We had to struggle with the old enemies of peace, business and financial monopoly, speculation, reckless banking, class antagonism, sectionalism, war profiteering. They had begun to consider the government of the United States as a mere appendage to their own affairs. And we know now that government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob. Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
There you go. Franklin Roosevelt taking it to them, right? And that's something we're starting to see more and more from good Democrats out there. But anyhow, bottom line, this I believe this ad itself is going to be closed captioned, and that's really a cool thing. We want to do this for every show across the network, to make Free Speech TV more inclusive, more available, more easily accessed by a wider variety of people. And this is pretty important stuff, and it does cost money. I mean, it's going to cost Free Speech TV. I mean, like I said, they're trying to raise $10,000 today, right now. And so if you would call 877-378-8669 with a donation of any amount that you feel comfortable with, it will, and like I said, it'll be doubled. We've got frontline funders who have said that they will match your donation up to $6,500. So that's a pretty big deal. So please call now or go to freespeech.org/donate and make your contribution so that we can expand the ability or the number of people who are able to access Free Speech TV. Thank you so much for your concern.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the second hour of our program. So Elon Musk, you'll recall, came out and said that a massive number, my recollection is 40, he said 40% of the calls into Social Security, he was talking about people trying to sign up for their benefits because they just turned 65 or whatever, that 40% of the calls were fraudulent. That's what he said just a couple months ago, maybe not even that long back. And so they put these anti-fraud checks into place. So now when you call into Social Security to sign up for Social Security, You have to jump through all these hoops to prove who you are and that it's not fraudulent and that you actually are that age and that you actually are a U.S. citizen and that you actually paid into social. You know, you just now it's a long and complicated process, which of course is what they wanted to do. This had nothing to do whatsoever with stopping fraud. This is entirely about trying to break Social Security, because Social Security is, you know, it's $1 trillion a year. And, you know, the billionaires would love to have that money in the form of tax breaks, you know, or subsidies for, you know, more subsidies for Tesla and more subsidies for Starlink and more subsidies for, you know, I mean, you name it, right? All of their companies. Well, the Social Security Agency put those things into place, and the result has been twofold. Number one, it has dramatically slowed down processing of new Social Security claims. So it's much more difficult now to get your Social Security when you turn 65. And they did find, out of the first 110,000 people who called in to sign up for Social Security, they found 2 people who were fraudulent, which they probably would have caught anyway, by the way, those 2. That's a fraud rate of 0.0018%. 2 out of 110,000. It is not 40%. As Senator Elizabeth Warren said, the Trump-Musk Social Security takeover has only meant more chaos and confusion for Americans. She adds, every one of Doge's so-called mistakes is a backdoor cut to people's benefits. There's nothing efficient about making it harder for people to access the checks they've earned and are owed. And then she went on to say that the revelations in this internal administration document, by the way, this is not an official notice from Social Security. Hey, we found 2 fraudulent people. No, this was an internal document that got leaked. And now we know. Now we know that Musk was lying to us or was just misinformed or malinformed. You know, Martin O'Malley, he was the former chief of Social Security during the Biden administration. He said, I've been saying it all along. Elon Musk is the biggest fraud, not Social Security. Yeah, I think I could probably agree with that, although I don't have any firsthand knowledge, but, you know, from where I'm sitting, it sure looks that way. Meanwhile, down in Georgia, back in 2019, this was before Sam Alito wrote the Dobbs decision, you know, quoting a 17th century witch-burning judge to end the right of abortion in the United States. The state of Georgia passed what they call the Life Act, which says that after 6 weeks, you may not get an abortion in Georgia. And most women, more than half of women who discover that they're pregnant after 6 weeks. And the bill, of course, is predicated on the assertion that you can hear a heartbeat at 6 weeks, which is not true. You can hear a bundle of cells that will eventually become a heart twitching rhythmically at 6 weeks. But that little bundle of cells is not a heart, and that is not a heartbeat. But in any case, Adriana Smith is a 30-year-old registered nurse. She was working at Emory University Hospital. One day she had a terrible headache. She went in to get checked. They did not do an MRI or a CT scan of her head, which they should have done. It turned out that she had a series of massive blood clots in her brain. She was 9 weeks pregnant, which might have had something to do with it. Blood clots are one of the potential complications associated with pregnancy, particularly for some women. And she was, 2 days after she was complaining of the headache, she was brain dead. She was dead. Her heart was still beating, but she could no longer breathe. I mean, her brain had basically stopped working. So they put her on a ventilator because she was 9 weeks pregnant. And they're like, to her family, sorry, she's no longer your daughter, your sister, your mother, she's no longer that. She is now an incubator for a fetus that the state of Georgia, the Republicans in the state of Georgia have decided must be protected at all costs. And to add insult to injury, this woman's family is having to pay for her hospitalization.
or for the hospitalization of her corpse, basically. This is wild stuff. The doctors advised Smith's family that they are not legally allowed to consider alternatives. I just can't imagine. You know, it's just... Jessica Valenti says, how many different ways can they prove to us that they don't see us as human beings? She's talking about women. You are a vessel, you are an incubator, but you are most certainly not a human being. Corpses have more rights than a pregnant person in these states with these election bans. How many families are they going to devastate? And, you know, now this baby's going to be born and somebody's going to have to take care of it. That's another couple $100,000 in expense to raise a child through adulthood. And you know, her family is going to be probably wiped out, maybe end up homeless, I don't know, because of the hospital bills. It's incredible. Meanwhile, Lee Zeldin, the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, this kind of, you know, toady of the fossil fuel industry, sent out an email to all of their employees, more than 15,000 of their employees, asking if you know of any DEI that's left over in any of our offices or paperwork, or, you know, any people who are promoting DEI, you know, anybody who says, hey, you know, maybe we, you know, let's hire that black person, you know, anything like that, please rat them out. We would like you to become snitches. This is the same Lee Zeldin, by the way, who has boasted about cutting $22 billion in EPA grants and contracts. Billion with a B. He's gutting the agency. So anyhow, he sends out this note to all 15,000 to 15,000 employees saying, hey, if you don't have any DEI out there, anybody being nice to black people or queer people? And not one single person replied. I'm telling you, when Trump is gone, and that day will come, you know, he's got 3.5 years left to serve his term, a little more than that, actually. But, you know, eventually the clock is going to reach the end, and it'll be 2028 and time for a brand new administration. And, you know, knock wood, hopefully the Democrats will take power. They're going to have a hell of a lot of work to do to put this country back together after all the damage these vandals have done. Speaking of damage and vandals, the Department of Homeland Security, remember the Hunger Games? The Department of Homeland Security wants to apparently reboot them. DHS spokeswoman Tricia McLaughlin told the Huffington Post yesterday that the Department of Homeland Security is mulling over a reality television show in which immigrants compete for U.S. citizenship. Seriously, this show was pitched to DHS by Rob Warsoff. He's a Canadian-born writer, actually, producer and director. The show will be called The American. According to Huffington Post, Kristi Noem is a fan of the concept, although DHS is now saying she doesn't know anything about it. This guy is the guy who worked on Duck Dynasty, The Millionaire Matchmaker, and Dating Naked. So in this reality show, 12 contestants would arrive by boat that they would call the Citizenship at Ellis Island, and then travel across the United States by train. You don't want them in an airplane. It's too dangerous nowadays. Competing in various challenges, which include rolling logs in Wisconsin or collecting gold in a San Francisco mine. The winner, I'm sharing this with you from this article by Taylor Mitchell in Huffington Post. The winner of the series would be sworn in by a famed judge or politician in front of the Capitol building, probably Trump himself, right? And there would also be additional absurdly American prizes, such as 1 million American Airlines points, a $10,000 Starbucks gift card, or a lifetime supply of 76 gasoline. Just what we need, another reality show. I keep pointing out, and I think it's a pretty important thing to point out, that Donald Trump is running a reality show right now. It's the one thing he knows how to do. NBC spent millions of dollars training him to be a reality TV host. They paid him millions of dollars over, 14 years, 11 years? I forget how long The Apprentice ran, but it was quite some time. He got very good at it. It's got a huge audience. In fact, it's playing again. I saw it on Sling the other day. And so this is the one thing he knows how to do. It's why he runs his cabinet meetings like a reality show. It's why, basically everything he does is a reality show. So it makes perfect sense that, they would have, a bunch of migrants, running around trying to win U.S. citizenship. I think it's sick, but what do you think? I'll pick up your calls on the other side of the break. It's just about 18 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, talk media for the rest of us.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's the place where we dare to ask, is Walmart a person? And we dare to say, no, the Republicans on the Supreme Court got that one wrong, too. And welcome back, Ed in Chicago. Hey, Ed, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, boy, listening to talk about that woman in Louisiana.
Georgia.
I can't emphasize. Georgia. Jessica Valenti's Substack. Every woman should subscribe to that because I guarantee you will be passing that around.
Oh yeah.
She does such an excellent job
Every man should,
on covering
too.
different. Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah, and we tend to how to get information out there. My optometrist. I had a new one now, and he's working every day. He has a daughter is coming up to going to college and stuff, and because of that Substack, they know which states to avoid like the plague.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, but the reason I'm calling is I don't know how recent this was. I saw this yesterday on Democratic Underground. Representative Ramirez questioning Kristi Noem. And if you have not seen that, I highly suggest looking at it. It is a playbook for how Democrats should be talking to these people. She did this. Representative Ramirez did not hold back at all. She said, you are breaking the law. You are breaking the Constitution. You don't know what you're doing. You're on call. This is to Kristi Noem's face at a committee hearing.
Yeah.
It was so good. And I wish all of our Democratic representatives would be talking to these people in this way, because none of these people are qualified.
Yeah.
And yet they are being treated, we are treating them as if they are deserving of the title that they hold when they don't.
I agree.
And it just tends to elevate them and cut the crap. Look at what this guy is doing. Now I guess he's hanging some huge banner at some federal building. This guy is going.
Yeah, it's the Department
nuts.
of Agriculture has this giant, 40-foot tall picture of Donald Trump's face hanging in the front of it.
Exactly.
This is
going
dictator
so
chic.
far off the. This is going so far off the rails, and our Democratic representatives, with few exceptions, continue to act like this is politics as normal, and I think that's to our detriment. The only way to break through, like I said, this Representative Ramirez. She was outstanding and showing
I'll check
fellow
it out,
Democrats.
I will check it out.
It was great.
And thank you for the heads up on that. I appreciate it. Sean in Britain, South Dakota. Hey, Sean, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you. What's up?
I'm called because you said at the very beginning of the show asking why Trump does what he does. I think there's good evidence to suggest that Trump is actually a Russian asset.
I agree.
And if you think about
perhaps
that,
Musk too. By the way, there's a movie. The German television just produced a movie, a documentary, arguing that that's exactly the case. That Trump and Musk are working for Putin.
well, that makes good sense. So if you're Putin and you want to destroy the country, what do? You send in a team of people who not only dismantle the administrative state, but they also destroy the country's capacity to get back up on its feet after a disaster.
Yep.
It makes sense to stop vaccinations. It makes sense to destroy the Weather Service. It makes sense to shut down FEMA if your goal is to so completely disable not only the administrative state, but the population, that there's no way for us to fight back. And if we're bankrupt, we've got no money to rebuild.
Yep, I completely agree. The only other explanation that I can come up with is ideological, is that these guys actually believe this libertarian BS that, if you get rid of government, everybody will be happy and paradise will ensue. But I'm increasingly skeptical of that. Yeah. Sean, I got to run. Thank you. Our daily song is now available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Pandora, Tidal, Deezer, iHeartRadio, and a whole bunch of other platforms. Just look for songs by Louise and Thom Hartmann. Check it out. Between 40 years of Ronald Reagan's neoliberalism destroying the American middle class and all the just horrors of January 6th and the Trump presidency, America's waking up, and that's a really good thing. There's actually, some books coming out about this. Mine, The Hidden History of Democracy. Neil Howe's The Fourth Turning is here. And it looks like a moment of American renaissance is upon us, if our media doesn't screw it up, which raises the question, can we have democracy and Fox News? Can the two coexist? Like, when Fox News runs chyrons saying that essentially Joe Biden is a wannabe dictator who's throwing Trump in jail because he's his political opponent. There's a whole rant about this and an in-depth analysis of what can we do with regard to repairing our media here in the United States over at HartmannReport.com. I think you'll find it interesting. Check it out.
There is a house in Washington they call the Fallen One. It's filled with gold and grievance, and it's poisoned what we've done. My mother taught me justice. My father spoke of grace. But now that house has traded both for rage and a red hat face.
24 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Bob in Melbourne, Florida. Hey, Bob, thanks for listening to WMNF. What's on your mind today?
As always. Hey, at the start of the show, you mentioned that you weren't sure when hurricane season was. I thought I'd let you know that it's hurricane season starts on June the 1st.
Whoa.
And runs until, that's just a couple of weeks from now, and it runs until November the 1st.
Thank you.
Okay.
I thought it was a little later than that.
Yeah, it used to be October the 1st was when hurricane season was over, but since we've had global warming for the last couple of years, they've extended that to November the 1st. And also out of the NOAA weather people, I understand, and I'm getting loose information on this, so is that we're down to a dozen weather predictors on the Gulf of Mexico right now that work for the federal government for NOAA. No, I'm sorry, not the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, for God's sake. Let's be proper about this. Yeah, and two of the weather services outlets that they have shut down and has no weather forecasters. One is in Houston, and the other is in Tampa, Florida.
Perfect.
We don't need to know what the weather is during hurricane season in Tampa and Houston, do we?
Well, aren't Tampa and Houston blue cities?
Tampa is it's purple. And Houston is
definitely
blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, Houston is definitely blue.
Screw them.
And I would say that Tampa. That's right. And I would say that Tampa leans definitely blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where WMNF is. So,
got a great radio
anyway,
station.
I just thought. Oh yeah, but I'm on the other side of the state, so I get the station over the
the cyber box. You know, I don't get the live signal. So anyway, but I would encourage anybody, if you want to hear what is absolutely the greatest little radio station on planet Earth, is just go WMNF, and you can listen to it anywhere. I've actually picked up WMNF in China.
Wow.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
That's the wonders of the internet.
Anyway, come hurricane season, I'll check back in with you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bob, and appreciate the data. I really do.
Yeah.
Thank you. 27 minutes past the hour. It's Anything Goes Weekend. What's on your mind? Back with more of your calls right after this break here at the bottom of the hour. Stay with us.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Speaking the truth, Elon Musk would really rather you didn't know all about. I'll be right back with your call. Hey, this is just a one-day fundraiser here. Please pay careful attention. For years, Free Speech TV has basically been missing something that has really kind of left some of our disabled or hard of hearing or whatever viewers kind of out in the cold, and that's closed captioning. So with your support today in this one-day fundraiser, we can fix this. Free Speech TV is launching a campaign to raise $10,000 to begin phasing in closed captioning across the network. They start with video on demand, bringing inclusive access to our most popular shows, but that's just the beginning. The long-term goal of Free Speech TV is make sure every Free Speech TV broadcast on air and online is fully accessible to everyone. So your donation today helps open the door to a more equitable future for Free Speech TV. And our frontline funders, Joe in D.C., Kelly in Denver, and an anonymous donor have stepped up with $6,500 to match your donations. So your impact goes twice as far. So please, to support the efforts, go to freespeech.org/donate or call 877-378-8669. And while you're doing that, here's a very inspiring clip of President Franklin Roosevelt. I think you're going to love it. Here it is.
With hear nothing, see nothing, do nothing government. The nation looked to that government, but that government looked away. 9 mocking years with the golden calf and 3 long years of the scourge. 9 crazy years at the ticker and 3 long years in the breadline. 9 mad years of mirage and 3 long years of despair. And my friends, powerful influences strive today to restore that kind of government with its doctrine that that government is best which is most indifferent to mankind. For nearly 4 years now, you have had an administration which, instead of twirling its thumbs, has rolled up its sleeves. And I can assure you that we will keep our sleeves rolled up. We had to struggle with the old enemies of peace, business and financial monopoly, speculation, reckless banking, class antagonism, sectionalism, war profiteering. They had begun to consider the government of the United States as a mere appendage to their own affairs. And we know now that government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob. Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
There you go. Franklin Roosevelt taking it to them, right? And that's something we're starting to see more and more from good Democrats out there. But anyhow, bottom line, this I believe this ad itself is going to be closed captioned, and that's really a cool thing. We want to do this for every show across the network, to make Free Speech TV more inclusive, more available, more easily accessed by a wider variety of people. And this is pretty important stuff, and it does cost money. I mean, it's going to cost Free Speech TV. I mean, like I said, they're trying to raise $10,000 today, right now. And so if you would call 877-378-8669 with a donation of any amount that you can, that you feel comfortable with, it will, and like I said, it'll be doubled. We've got frontline funders who have said that they will match your donation up to $6,500. So that's a pretty big deal. So please call now or go to freespeech.org/donate and make your contribution so that we can expand the ability or the number of people who are able to access Free Speech TV. Thank you so much for your concern.
There was a time we had a deal. You work hard, the country'd feel a duty to the folks who paved the way. From factory lines to nurses' floors, we built this land, we fought their wars. But now they treat our lives like they don't pay. Grandma's counting pills and praying rent gets paid, while billionaires just float away in gold-stitched shades. This is the death of the social contract, signed in sweat, torn by billionaires packed. They raise the glass while the hospitals close, our elders fall and nobody knows. Is this the country we swore to defend, or the end of the dream, my friend?
Welcome back. 36 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here on Anything Goes Weekend. Chip in Lawrence, Kansas. Hey, Chip, what's up?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Tom. First of all, going back to the lady in the coma the brain dead lady in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
If you really want to let the government let her go, just remind them that the woman is black.
Yeah.
And thus it'll probably be a black baby. Georgia would probably say bye-bye at that point. But anyways, the reason for my call was, are you familiar with a young man by the name of Dean Withers?
I'm not.
He is a 20-year-old podcaster who I seriously recommend you check out. He is a former bigot, racist, conservative, and he's admitted, and he's like, I was wrong. He's changed his ways, and he basically is educating people, and his knowledge, and education in all of this is reminiscent of a young Thom Hartmann with all the knowledge you have. And I would love for you to, watch some of his podcasts. You can find them on YouTube, Facebook, and such.
Yeah.
But
Dean Withers, you said.
Dean Withers, yes.
Okay. I'm writing it down.
He's just like this incredible young man. I would love to have you on and talk to him, because he is the new generation of Thom Hartmans and such.
Yeah, and we need them.
I can't recommend them enough.
We need them. Well, thank you for that, Chip. Thanks for the heads up on that. I appreciate it. And
yep, have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Patricia in Abita Springs, Louisiana. Am I saying it right, Patricia?
Hi. Hey, Tom. Yes, this is me. I've been hanging on a while. I'm so glad to appreciate you. I listen to your program a lot, and I love your music and your wife's music. And I am a retired nurse practitioner north of New Orleans in a little town called Abita Springs, which has good, great beer. And I've been a liberal all my life. I remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, hiding under, I'm 75 now, hiding under a desk, and all the Catholic brainwashing I had. But I don't want to keep you long. I just want to say 3 points. I've been watching what's going on in the White House with the Trump administration since he was first elected. And I'm very knowledgeable. I read a lot. I'm a retired nurse practitioner. And I knew he was a sociopath as soon as he opened his mouth. And shockingly, people reinstated him. So my question is, in my opinion, it seems like we've reached a tipping point, because protests and actions and the failure of some judges, including the Supreme Court, are not giving us what we need. And I know why now. Well, people have revolutions. And if Americans don't do that now, we are screwed.
Well, I think if we had a revolution now, it would backfire. But keep going.
Well, it might be a Tiananmen Square. I don't know, but we can't just question these cabinet of fools. In Washington, it's not changing anything. So that's why revolutions happen. From all I know history, because they can't take it. Let them eat cake, whatever. So I don't want to keep you on. The second question is, I listened to a podcast this morning about the Trump administration or whoever is trying to change the currency from the American dollar to his whatever. He calls it his cryptocurrency, which I know nothing about. And that seems weird and evil. And my third question is, I had to write it down. Hold on, because I've been hanging on a while.
Well, let me just respond to your
anyway, I just want to say I'm going to support your program and think of what you're doing, but it seems like words are not working.
Yeah.
We need action.
I got it. I'm with you. Patricia, thank you. In terms of the cryptocurrency thing, back when Musk and these other guys were creating PayPal, they were talking about coming up with an alternative payment system. Of course, it was based on the dollar initially.
But there's all this buzz around the crypto sphere about, let's create a truly international currency. I don't think cryptocurrency will ever be that. I continue to believe that it's not a currency, but a commodity that people are using, that are trading with a commodity. Of course, gold is a commodity too, and it has served as a currency at various times. But this is much more ephemeral. So I'm very skeptical about crypto. Thanks for the call, Patricia. Larry in Los Angeles. Hey, Larry, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, I just finished looking at Donald Trump, the convicted felon that's in the White House. I always keep the sound down whenever I see his puppy poop covered face when he comes on my TV. But the thing about some of the people that call into this program and they start talking about what the Democrats did that was wrong. Again, I will say they did nothing, unless you think that Joe Biden should have gotten convicted by 34 times of a felony.
Yeah, the one major thing that Joe Biden did wrong throughout the 4 years of his presidency was he failed to communicate to the American people what he was accomplishing, and it was a tragedy. It's a tragedy.
I actually don't think he's a very good communicator, and because he stutters, and whenever he gets up there and every time he makes a slight stutter, the entire news media jumps on him.
I know.
And then you have this George Steffi or George Stephanopoulos, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
That piece of garbage decided that he didn't want Joe Biden to be president again, and so he called him old. Donald Trump is showing more signs of being old than Joe Biden ever did. And I never liked George Steffi anyway. I don't even want to say his real name.
Okay.
But
tell us what you really think. Feel, Larry.
Yeah. He spends too much time on TV. He doesn't.
Let's not go down the George Stephanopoulos road. Let's get back to the Fed. Okay, quantitative easing.
So the Fed in the last 2 weeks actually is doing quantitative easing again. They actually added a.
Oh, really? They're trying to help out Trump.
Yeah. They're trying to help out Trump. In the weeks prior to the election, they took out $275 billion out of the stock market. In the last, that was a.
You mean they're buying stocks again? I thought they only did that during emergencies.
No, they do it once every 5 weeks or so. They'll add a little. They'll go and buy some more stocks. And but this time around, they've done it now 2 times. For 2 weeks in a row. And so prior to the election, they took out $275 billion from the stock market. That was in a 17-week period. In the last 17 weeks, they took out $118 billion. They took out more than twice the amount of money from the stock market when Biden was running for president than what they've done since the convicted felon became president.
Yeah.
So yes, the Fed is biased.
Interesting.
And
by the way, let me add this, lest I forget. You can't spell felon, Larry, without Elon. Back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed that a couple of weeks ago. I'm saying, wow, what a coincidence. But so and the stock market is still broken. It's not acting the way it used to act. There's really something weird going on with the stock market, and that's one of the reasons why Joe Biden also lost. So when you sit back and look at, or Harris lost, when you sit back and look at all the things that the media did to the Democrats, and while Joe Biden was seeing an all-time record, 16 million jobs created in 4 years, while he saw more points added to the stock market than Donald Trump did, even though Donald Trump had zero Fed rates, 0% Fed rates, and Joe Biden, they knocked it up to 5.25.
Yeah.
Joe Biden still outperformed Donald Trump. So when people are saying, well, what Biden should have done, again, maybe he should have gotten convicted 34 times. Maybe he should have ran out there and started talking about grabbing people women by the you-know-what. Maybe he should have acted as the fool that Donald Trump is, and maybe that would have helped. No, it wouldn't.
I don't think so, no. I don't think so. I realize you're being facetious, Larry.
But, I find it fascinating that the Fed is, I wonder if this is Jerome Powell trying to get Donald Trump off his back. I don't know.
Yeah, he's trying to get on his good side.
I think so. Makes sense.
He's just a little puppy.
Makes sense. Larry, thank you for the call. Always so nice to hear from you. I appreciate it. It's 46 and a half minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls here. Anything Goes Weekend in just a moment. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, your media support group for We the People.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
By the way, the so-called Ukraine peace talks in Turkey appear to have just fallen apart. Bad news. And welcome back. Anita in Ludington, Michigan. Ludington's such a beautiful town, Anita. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind today?
Yes, it is. I'm calling. I just wanted to give you kind of some good news about, we've been protesting in Ludington.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been protesting on Wednesday and Saturday. And we've been getting 200 to 300 people.
Sweet.
Regularly. I went to in fact, I just joined our local Democrat, party, but I went to their meeting, and there was over 100 people there. We had standing room there. They're having to look for a larger place to have their meeting.
Oh, that's great news.
Because so many people are showing up.
Yeah. And that's a conservative part of Michigan, too.
Yes, it is. Very conservative. And we're also planning, to be, we're going to march with, when they have the Pride March, we're going to, do that. We're going to be in the 4th of July parade. We're going to be at our local fair.
That's great.
With a booth. So we're doing that. We're getting people coming around talking about ranked choice voting, and I just wondered about that.
I am a fan of ranked choice voting. I like it. The political parties tend not to like it, both Democrats and Republicans, because what it does is it allows third parties and fourth and fifth parties, independents, to participate in the electoral process on a relatively level playing field. But it more accurately, in my opinion, reflects the will of the voters, and that should always be our goal, rather than partisan advantage.
Okay, because they had people handing out flyers and having meetings there, trying to get a petition drive going to get it on the ballot in Michigan.
Yeah, I would be all in favor of it.
Okay, I was going to say it sounds good to me, because I figured it would allow independents and other parties besides Republican and Democrat to have a chance at, particularly the lower offices, local offices.
Yeah, and it's not just that, Anita. The cool thing about it is, right now under first past the post, winner take all voting, if, to use the example that everybody knows, back in 2000, you had Ralph Nader on the ballot in Florida, and he pulled 90,000 votes in Florida that, most of them would have gone to Al Gore. And Al Gore lost that election by 537 votes. If ranked choice voting had been in place in Florida at the time, then you could have said, my number one vote is for Ralph Nader, but my number two vote is for Al Gore. And that 97,000 votes for Ralph Nader, once it was clear Nader, didn't hit the 15% threshold, wasn't a real contender, they would have been discarded, and your second choice would have come in. And so you would have had an additional 97,000 votes for Al Gore, and Al Gore would have become our president in 2000, even in the face of all the other stuff. So, that's the main thing that I like about ranked choice voting, is it ends this problem of third parties that are aligned more or less philosophically with your party hurting you, and instead they help you. Everybody gets to have their say, and you can have more parties, but also you're not, Greens don't hurt Democrats, Libertarians don't hurt Republicans any longer. And I think that's a healthy thing. Anita, I got to run, but thanks for the call. It's great to hear from you there in Ludington. It's been a long time since I was there. It's such a beautiful town, though. Thank you. 51 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. So a lot of people are wondering, why is it in America that we can't have nice things? Why don't we have, the same things every other democracy has? Every other democracy in the world has a national health care system of some form, and everybody is covered. We don't. We've got 27 million uninsured people and over 100 million underinsured people. Why is that? Why is it that every other country in the world offers college education very inexpensively, if not for free, and for here you go to debt? Why is it that we've got our public schools crumbling and other countries are doing well? Why is it that we've got Medicare being taken apart by this Medicare Advantage scam and nobody will do anything about it? Well, it turns out the reason why it boils down to one thing, one Supreme Court decision, Citizens United, legalizing the bribery of our politicians. There's a whole rant about this over at HartmannReport.com. I think you're going to find it very, very useful. Check it out. Past the hour, picking up your calls here. Renee in Oakland, California. Hey, Renee, what's up?
Good morning, Professor. Actually, because you touched upon one of my favorite subjects this morning on UFOs.
Oh, yeah.
And it's interesting to hear about your experiences, but I was going through a period of synchronicities in my life, and I'm listening to you, and for one of the few times I'm seeing you on TV, so I get to see the book club. And you were reading from the book Warrior Is, if you remember that. I still caught it the other day.
Yeah, by Harley and I'm forgetting their names now, but yeah.
Yeah, but it was real interesting because besides being about Custer's last stand and all that, they were talking about the Lakotans, their belief that the Palladians put them here and all this sort of stuff, and their first chiefs were Palladian. That was real interesting. 2 weeks later, I'm listening to an Australian UFO researcher, and she just happens to drop in about the Aborigines in Australia. They have the same legend that they came from the Palladians and all that, and just, another mouth the gate moment. And I just thought that was interesting. If you ever want to watch a good show, Secret of the Skinwalker Ranch, you can look at the whole history about that. It's not just anecdotal. They have scientific instruments they do in the program. Real interesting book about the whole phenomena and just other things. But my second point, that's like that part of me, the esoteric. But the other point that I have is we know about Trump enough and how he's just shredding the Supreme Court, all the laws and everything like that. But for my community, I'm an anatomically corrected woman. I don't like the T word because that's just not the truth. That's a slur in my book. But, cruel and unusual punishment, taking away medical care from us and medications that they're talking about, especially after surgery, where you're going to go into menopause symptoms really bad if you can't get your medications and things like that. If that's not cruel and unusual, I really don't know what is.
Yeah. Well, you're fortunate to live in California.
I know. Definitely. I wouldn't move anyplace else.
And isn't it a shame?
To go to law school.
Yeah. Isn't it a shame that there are parts of America where people like you are discriminated against is nowhere near a strong enough phrase. I lack the proper phrase to describe it, but
totally agreed.
Yeah.
Look at that trans man in Michigan who was just tortured for 30 days or something like that, a month, and I'm dead, I guess a few months ago. It's just, it's scary. But, I just wish that Newsom actually stood up the way he used to be instead of what he's...
we'll see where he goes. He appears to trying to reinvent himself as something, I don't know, some sort of weird hybrid or something, I don't know. But Renee, thank you for the call. It's nice to hear from you, and appreciate the UFO stories too. Thank you. CJ in Shreveport, Louisiana. Hey, CJ, you got the last minute.
Hey, we had so many good callers today.
Indeed.
A second one earlier about Congresswoman Ramirez heading Kristi Noem. Her, highly recommended. But I saw that just earlier today. But I want to follow up because another caller was talking about this. I want to follow up on what I was talking about Tuesday, personhood versus life, and a framework for the subject of abortion, etc., that's independent of Roe versus Wade and it's neither pro-choice nor pro-life as the terms have commonly been described. It's something I came up with in the 1990s as a much younger CJ, and I call it pro-rights because it acknowledges that the unborn, what it's an actual person, whenever we determine that to be, and the mother's rights are equal, but the unborn's rights are not greater than those of the mother.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, life and personhood are two different things. Life begins at fertilization scientifically, but personhood is a legal construct. It's whoever has rights, and that should be when the brain turns on.
Fully
turn
on. Which is kind of Roe v. Wade.
It's how we determine when personhood ends. When your brain turns off, you're dead. Not your heart, because then people who have had cardiac arrest or a heart transplant or on an ECMO machine would be legally dead.
Yeah, no, good point, CJ. Thank you. We'll be right back on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
Hey, this is just a one-day fundraiser here. Please pension. For years, Free Speech TV has basically been missing something that has really kind of left some of our disabled or hard of hearing or whatever viewers kind of out in the cold, and that's closed captioning. So with your support today in this one-day fundraiser, we can fix this. Free Speech TV is launching a campaign to raise $10,000 to begin phasing in closed captioning across the network. They start with video on demand, bringing inclusive most popular shows, but that's just the beginning. The long-term goal of Free Speech TV is make sure every Free Speech TV broadcast on air and online is fully accessible to everyone. So your donation today helps open the door to a more equitable future for Free Speech TV. And our frontline funders, Joe in D.C., Kelly in Denver, and an anonymous donor, have stepped up with $6,500 to match your donations. So your impact goes twice as far. So please, to support the efforts, go to freespeech.org/donate or call 877-378-8669. And while you're doing that, here's a very inspiring clip of President Franklin Roosevelt. I think you're going to love it. Here it is.
With hear nothing, see nothing, do nothing government. The nation looked to that government, but that government looked away. 9 mocking years with the golden calf and 3 long years of the scourge. 9 crazy years at the ticker and 3 long years in the breadline. Nine mad years of mirage and 3 long years of despair. And my friends, powerful influences strive today to restore that kind of government with its doctrine that that government is best which is most indifferent to mankind. For nearly 4 years now, you have had an administration which, instead of twirling its thumbs, has rolled up its sleeves. And I can assure you that we will keep our sleeves rolled up. We had to struggle with the old enemies of peace, business and financial monopoly, speculation, reckless banking, class antagonism, sectionalism, war profiteering. They had begun to consider the government of the United States as a mere appendage to their own affairs. And we know now that government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob. Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
There you go. Franklin Roosevelt taking it to them, right? And that's something we're starting to see more and more from good Democrats out there. But anyhow, bottom line, this I believe this ad itself is going to be closed captioned, and that's really a cool thing. We want to do this for every show across the network, to make Free Speech TV more inclusive, more available, more easily accessed by a wider variety of people. And this is pretty important stuff, and it does cost money. I mean, it's going to cost Free Speech TV. I mean, like I said, they're trying to raise $10,000 today, right now. And so if you would call 877-378-8669 with a donation of any amount that you can, that you feel comfortable with, it will, and like I said, it'll be doubled. We've got frontline funders who have said that they will match your donation up to $6,500. So that's a pretty big deal. So please call now or go to freespeech.org/donate and make your contribution so that we can expand the ability or the number of people who are able to access Free Speech TV. Thank you so much for your concern.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, welcome to the third hour of our program, How Trump's Emergency Powers Could Become Permanent. Ross Rosenfield writing for the New Republic. This is a little bit of history here that I was unaware of. The word dictator, like the person who can dictate how things must be, The word dictator was created in the early Roman Republic. It was when a single person was given immense power in an emergency, and it wasn't always the leader. Sometimes it was delegated to somebody else, and initially it was always temporary. The dictator did not rule in perpetuity. In fact, Cincinnatus, Lucius Quintus Cincinnatus, was George Washington's hero from the Roman era, and Cincinnatus was given that power 3 times, in fact. 3 times he was brought in as the Roman Republic was having problems and made dictator for a period of months. He righted the ship, and each time he left and went back to being a farmer, which is what he ultimately did after the 3rd time. That was it, no more politics, which is what George Washington did after his 2nd term. And he cited Cincinnatus. So anyhow, that's the history of it. But the problem is that it started out as this kind of noble experiment about dealing with, upheaval or crisis or famine or weather changes or invasion. Something that was not expected that caused you to need to be able to do things quickly without having to go through their version of the parliament, the Senate, the Roman Senate. And by 131 AD, it had, or 121 BC, when Gaius Gracchus was made a dictator by a Senate decree, the Senatus Consultum Ultimum. It suspended due process and shielded the senators themselves from any actions that they took. And what that did is it set the stage for Sulla, 40 years later, to use that exact same legislative procedure to basically crush democracy in the Roman Republic. He made himself dictator for life. He was followed by Julius Caesar, who did the same thing after his war against Pompey the Great. And that was the end of the Roman Republic and the beginning of the Roman dictatorship. Ross Rosenfeld also points out that there is no specific mention of emergency powers in the U.S. Constitution, which I find fascinating. In fact, it was only in 1976 that the Congress passed the Emergency Powers Act, giving presidents the power to, do all kinds of wild things. But the bill says basically that Congress has to grant that power to the president. And in fact, the Supreme Court overturned that provision that says Congress must do this in 1983 in a case called INS versus Chadha. While leaving in place the president's emergency powers, they took away Congress's ability to regulate those emergency powers, which is wild, particularly since this is a bill that was passed by Congress in 1976. Emergency powers have been used frequently, largely since the Reagan administration. Ronald Reagan did it 6 times, including to impose sanctions on apartheid South Africa, which is probably going to give Trump a fit. Bill Clinton used it a whopping 18 times to stop Middle Eastern terrorism, to stop Iran from enriching uranium. George W. Bush declared states of emergency 14 times. Barack Obama did the same 14 times. And Trump has done it a number of times. He used it to bypass Congress to build the wall in the southern border. Joe Biden was, tried to apply them for his plan for student debt relief, but that got overturned by the Supreme Court. And Trump has so far declared 8 national emergencies in just 3 months. He's used them to militarize the southern border, to enact tariffs, and to push through more fossil fuel permits. But the big danger is that the state of emergency, as happened in the Roman Republic, will become permanent. And once that happens, it's no longer an emergency, it's now the new normal, and the new normal means that you don't have the rights, you don't have the constitutional protections, you don't have the guardrails that you used to have. And this is something we should be very, very concerned with, particularly given how Donald Trump is producing these declarations of emergency in situations where quite clearly no emergency exists. His whole ability to deport people is based on the emergency that he has declared, saying that President Maduro in Venezuela, via a Venezuelan gang, Tre de Agua, has invaded the United States, that it's a foreign, hostile invasion army, when in fact it's not. It's not even remotely, not at all. You know, he's used that, by the way, to militarize the southern border also. And now we've got the army down there. I mean, this is just wild stuff. So keep an eye on these states of emergency, these declarations of emergency, and let's hope. I mean, you know, they have been challenged in court, and let's hope that those challenges make their way to the Supreme Court. It would be a very, very good thing. A couple of other things here that I think are worthy of note. The Trump administration is accusing some state authorities and nonprofits of basically smuggling or harboring migrants because they've provided them with food. And they're talking about using this as an excuse to cut off funding for these nonprofits. The nation's Shelter and Services Program, the SSP, now this is administered by FEMA, was created specifically to help people who are refugees. And Trump is trying to gut that. The CEO of the Campaign Against Hunger in New York says, "I was flabbergasted that this would happen. They're going after her organization." She says, "And then I find the letter, it made you look like a common criminal, as if you were aiding and abetting those who were in need of food." And this was all a result of Greg Abbott dumping all kinds of Texas refugees that were in Texas into New York City. In fact, it was the Biden administration that gave them the funds to feed these people in New York to take the load off New York City. And now Trump is saying that, or Trump's Justice Department is saying that's a crime. And it's not just migrant-serving organizations. The FBI is accusing environmental groups that received grants from the EPA of, quote, conspiracy to defraud the United States, and has asked Citibank to freeze their checking accounts, you may recall. And FEMA has terminated these SSP grants. So, you know, it's just, you know, wild stuff. Meanwhile, people are paying $640 for a limited edition Trump watch. Only problem, there's no T in the Trump. This is so funny. This guy, Tim Pettit is his name, and he wanted to get a gift for his wife. And there's only 250 of these made, special limited edition. He heard the ad on a right-wing radio show, and he said, "I thought it was really nice. It was beautiful. I knew it'd be something that she'd like." And so he bought the watch after he heard the ad on a right-wing radio show, and he picked out the pink inaugural First Lady version of it. And when they got the watch, they noticed that the T was missing. It says RUMP. That's it. The Trump watch people now say they're going to replace the watch. I would keep it. I think that, you know, that becomes a collector's item. That's like, you know, the old pennies that were printed with a misprint on them, or the airplane that was upside down in the stamp from the 19-teens, you know, that's now worth, what, $1 million or something like that. So, and finally, a geeky science, and then I'll get to your calls. This is pretty amazing. You know, there's been all this, you know, how many steps should you take every day, and the 10,000 step thing that seemed to come out of, you know, one of the companies that was making step measuring devices, pedometers. But now the University of Oxford actually did a large study involving over 85,000 people in the United Kingdom over a 6-year period. And what they did is they had them wear pedometers, wear devices that measured their activity, and see how many steps they took, and looked at their chances of getting cancer, 13 different types of cancer. And what they found was that the more steps you take, the lower your chance of getting cancer. Now, nobody's exactly sure why this is. You know, my theory would be, you know, our lymphatic system, which drains toxins from our body, you know, kind of takes the waste material and ultimately dumps it into the liver, I believe. But most of our lymph system has no circular, it doesn't have a heart, it doesn't have a pump. So how does the lymph move from lymph node to lymph node and ultimately down into the liver where it gets disposed of? Every time you take a step, every lymph node in your body goes drip. So that's my theory. You know, that's just my, you know, I don't consider me a scientist. But This is what they found. At 5,000 steps, they started noticing, and that's about 1.5 miles a day, they started noticing, a little more than 1.5 miles a day, they started noticing that there was a significant, a measurable decline in cancers. At 7,000 steps, the risk of developing cancer dropped by 11%. At 9,000 steps, your risk of cancer drops by 16%. And, but then it levels off. So you don't need to do 10,000, but 9,000 is optimal. They also found that faster walking was linked with a lower cancer risk, but when total physical activity was taken into account, the speed of walking no longer made any statistically significant difference. They were looking at 13 specific cancers: esophageal, liver, lung, kidney, gastric, endometrial, leukemia, myeloma, colon, head and neck, rectal, bladder, and breast cancer. And like I said, this was a 6-year study. So get out there and walk, right? You know, take your 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 steps a day and radically reduce your risk of cancer. Seems like a reasonable thing to do, right? 17 minutes past the hour. I will pick up your calls for the rest of the hour. It's Anything Goes weekend here on the Thom Hartmann Program. The place where smart people get their news. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And I will be right back with your calls on Anything Goes weekend. Stay with us. And welcome back. Bill in Sun City, Arizona. Hey, Bill, thanks for watching us on Free Speech. What's up?
Hi, Tom. I'm going to ask you to name the enemy and the weapon of choice.
I don't understand.
The weapon. We have an enemy, don't we? We're being conspired against.
Again, I'm not. What's the point you're trying to make, Bill?
Well, the enemy is fascism.
Okay.
And its weapon of choice is money.
Sure.
What money means to them and what money means to us are two different things.
I don't disagree, although I would add that their other weapon of choice is propaganda.
But they use money to foster that.
True.
The original weapon, the thing that sustains it all, is the money. Like I say, we use our money for sustenance. Their sustenance is a given. They don't even think about it. You think Elon Musk thinks about, is breakfast going to be on the table tomorrow morning?
No, Trump and Elon have probably never even been in a supermarket.
Exactly. So they're using something that we're so dependent on against us.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to increase that awareness. Money has to become something we're aware of, the way they use it and the way we use it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I got it. Good point, Bill.
All right. Now, there's just one other thing. For as long as I've listened to you, and that's been a very long time, ever since W suspended the writ of habeas corpus, there's something I wanted to impart to you. I wrote it down that day. It's short, please. Can I say it?
Mm-hmm.
I wrote, I cry for a nation that was sold down the stream. Will it ever recover its promise and dream? Can a great city once fallen, yet ever raise, can wanton destruction ever gain praise? These questions and others still hang in the air, amid all its trouble and strife and despair, awaiting a moment when these answers revealed. Let a once great nation survive and be healed.
Nice poem, Bill. Bill, thanks for the call. That was great. Brandon in San Jose. Hey, Brandon, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Fine. What's up?
Yeah, so, what's going on? The fact that, that we've been having a conversation with the fact that Stephen Miller's on live television talking about suspending habeas corpus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, the caller was just talking about George W. Bush and the whole Guantanamo Bay and Abu Ghraib fiasco, which was insane, and largely a lot of that had to do with what Rumsfeld, not necessarily, well, at least the Abu Ghraib situation anyway, how that was mishandled and just a bungling mess. And this CCOT thing seems to be somewhat of a replay of that, although it's more severe and blatantly unconstitutional. The fact, sorry, I know you're out of time, but at the end of the day, we're just gonna have to get in the streets. Am I wrong or what?
No, I think that we need a citizen-led. I would say revolt. I'm not calling for armed revolution or anything like that, but people need to speak out. Brandon, thank you. Thank you for the call. We'll be right back. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. When I was a little kid, my grandmother had a piano, and I loved to play it. I was incompetent, but I was figuring out all kinds of stuff. And then I kind of got away from it, and, went to school, and things got busy and just lost track of it. Well, now there's this fascinating new study out of the University of Geneva, Switzerland, that is making me think maybe I should go back and learn the piano. What they found was that they took a group of 132 healthy older adults, retired, 62 to 78 years old. Half of them learned the piano, half of them took music classes without learning the piano. And what they found was that those who learned the piano actually had the strongest increase in their memory, in their mental competence, their mental faculties. Those who took the music classes also did well, but learning the piano was a huge step. So check it out. There's a whole video about it with all the details over at tom.tv.
They wrapped themselves in the flag, but they sold their souls for gold, screaming USA on cue like they were bought and told. They chant for a con man, swear the truth's a lie, while their billionaire masters watch and laugh from up high. They don't fight for freedom, they don't stand for the weak, just puppets on a string, dancing to the fat cat's beat. Oh, the bootlicker brigade, bending low, tongues out wide, kissing the boots of the men who take them for a ride. Sold out their country for a tax-free scheme, praying to the dollar while they kill the American dream.
Welcome back, 24 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. Darren in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Hey, Darren, what's up?
Hey, Tom. It's nice talking to you again. It's been a long time.
Well, thank you.
Hey, the reason for my call, at the beginning of the 1 o'clock hour, you were talking about this TV program that they're pitching, the immigrants trying to win citizenship, that kind of deal.
Right.
Well, it makes me wonder what's going to be next. Is Donald Trump going to go for a real-life version of The Running Man? Is that going to be next?
I don't know. But he is running a reality show. I mean, make no mistake about it. This is the only thing he knows how to do well. It's the only thing he's ever succeeded at in his whole entire life, other than, screwing people and raping women, or allegedly raping women. So it makes sense. I mean, it just makes perfect sense. Hey, let's have a reality show. Let's be explicit.
Yeah, absolutely. One other topic I want to hit on. I don't know if you've seen this about the woman in Georgia that had a stroke and is clinically brain dead, but she's pregnant, so they're keeping her alive.
Yeah, she was 9 weeks pregnant when her brain, when she had the brain blood clots in her brain that basically killed her brain. I did a rant about it about an hour ago. Yeah. I'm very familiar.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had for today, Tom. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, that's quite all right, Darren. Thank you very much for the call, and I do appreciate it. Oh, by the way, just a quick note here. These are the Republicans. If any of these guys represent you, these are the most vulnerable Republicans in 2026, in the midterms that'll be coming up in a year and a half. David Valadao in California, Don Bacon in Nebraska, Jeff Van Drew in New Jersey, Rob Bresnahan in Pennsylvania, Juan Ciscomani in Arizona, Jen Kiggins in Virginia, Young Kim in California, Rob Whitman in Virginia, Nicole Milikotatis in New York, Nick Lalata in New York, Andrew Garbarino in New York, and Jeff Hurd in Colorado. So these are the races where you might want to, just take a serious look at what's going on. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
I'll be back with your calls. George in Cripple Creek is up next. On the other side of the break, stay with us. Hey, this is just a one-day fundraiser here. Please pay careful attention. For years, Free Speech TV has basically been missing something that has really kind of left some of our disabled or hard of hearing or whatever viewers kind of out in the cold, and that's closed captioning. So with your support today in this one-day fundraiser, we can fix this. Free Speech TV is launching a campaign to raise $10,000 to begin phasing in closed captioning across the network. They start with video on demand, bringing inclusive access to our most popular shows, but that's just the beginning. The long-term goal of Free Speech TV is make sure every Free Speech TV broadcast on air and online is fully accessible to everyone. So your donation today helps open the door to a more equitable future for Free Speech TV. And our frontline funders, Joe in D.C., Kelly in Denver, and an anonymous donor, have stepped up with $6,500 to match your donations. So your impact goes twice as far. So please, to support the efforts, go to freespeech.org/donate or call 877-378-8669. And while you're doing that, here's a very inspiring clip of President Franklin Roosevelt. I think you're going to love it. Here it is.
With hear nothing, see nothing, do nothing government. The nation looked to that government, but that government looked away. 9 mocking years with the golden calf and 3 long years of the scourge. 9 crazy years at the ticker and 3 long years in the breadline. 9 mad years of mirage and 3 long years of despair. And my friends, powerful influences strive today to restore that kind of government with its doctrine that that government is best which is most indifferent to mankind. For nearly 4 years now, you have had an administration which, instead of twirling its thumbs, has rolled up its sleeves. And I can assure you that we will keep our sleeves rolled up. had to struggle with the old enemies of peace, business and financial monopoly, speculation, reckless banking, class antagonism, sectionalism, war profiteering. They had begun to consider the government of the United States as a mere appendage to their own affairs. And we know now that government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob. Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
There you go. Franklin Roosevelt taking it to them, right? And that's something we're starting to see more and more from good Democrats out there. But anyhow, bottom line, this I believe this ad itself is going to be closed captioned, and that's really a cool thing. We want to do this for every show across the network, to make Free Speech TV more inclusive, more available, more easily accessed by a wider variety of people. And this is pretty important stuff, and it does cost money. I mean, it's going to cost Free Speech TV. I mean, like I said, they're trying to raise $10,000 today, right now. And so if you would call 877-378-8669 with a donation of any amount that you can, that you feel comfortable with, it will, and like I said, it'll be doubled. We've got frontline funders who have said that they will match your donation up to $6,500. So that's a pretty big deal. So please call now or go to freespeech.org/donate and make your contribution so that we can expand the ability or the number of people who are able to access Free Speech TV. Thank you so much for your concern. Help support progressive radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica, or one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting progressive talk radio, and tag you're it.
I was tangled in the headlines, caught up in the noise. The weight of the world had stolen my joys. I grabbed my coat, left my phone behind, told myself it's time to unwind. The city fades as the highway bends, the air turns clean where the pavement ends. Go find your mountain, your valley, your stream, where the air feels lighter and your soul can dream. When the world feels heavy, let it all fall away. There's peace in the wild where the trees softly sway.
Welcome back. Amazing story in the Wall Street Journal here today. Fake puppies, phony offers of bargains. Apparently Facebook has become like Grand Central Station for scams. This is it's a really remarkable story. There's a link to it over on the Drudge Report today. 70% of all the fraud reported where people are using Zelle, the bank instant transfer service, came from Meta, came from Facebook products, basically, or Meta's ad library. In Guzman's case, it says a search of Meta's ad library this spring showed that more than 4,400 different ads listing the address of his business have run on Meta platforms over the past year. His actual business was responsible for 15 of them. So they take a legitimate company and create a phony ad, and it looks like it's that company offering some incredible deal, $26 for a box of brand new power tools, for example. The scam pages, and once they've got the money, they're gone. And the scam, it says, are run out of China, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and the Philippines.
but they use stolen pictures of, in this case, half-off warehouse. Amazing, amazing. So, you know, number one, when you get a text message from somebody who pretends to be a politician or a political party or a petition or anything else, never, ever, ever click on that text message. Delete it and report it as spam 100% of the time. 9 times out of 10, it's not Bernie, it's not AOC, it's not your friend. It is a scammer in the Philippines. And number two, when you see ads on Facebook, buyer beware, apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal here today. So what's on your mind today? George in Cripple Creek, Virginia. How you doing, George?
Hey, Tom. How you doing? A couple of interesting items. French President Macron offered to extend the French nuclear umbrella to protect NATO frontline states like Germany, Poland, and Romania in case President Trump reneges on the Article 5 of the NATO treaty. Attack on one is attack on all.
Right.
And as Vestia quoted, a couple of days ago, the Estonian Navy intercepted one of those Russian ghost tankers that's illegally transporting Russian oil because they suspected it was dragging an anchor to cut an undersea cable between Estonia and Finland. Mm-hmm. And the Russians sent some jets and warships to safely escort the tanker to a Russian port and accuse the Estonians of piracy.
Oh, geez. I'm curious. I'm curious, George, your take on this report that I just saw on Drudge Report. I didn't click on it, so because I just saw it during the break. I didn't have really time to read the article, but the headline was Russian Army massing on Finnish border. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I saw that. They said they're refurbishing old air bases and army supply bases, and supposedly they're going to concentrate 600,000 troops to invade Finland's Lapland and the Baltic states. And
right. It looks to me like Russia's getting ready for World War III.
Whether the NATO would employ Article 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my sense of it is that Putin does not believe, and probably has had a conversation with Trump about this, that NATO will honor Article 5, and that if they invade Finland or if they attack, Latvia, Lithuania, or Estonia, or even Poland, that there will be no response from NATO, or if there is a response, it'll be, a very gradual and measured response, and they can at least steal some territory.
Anemic or something like that, right?
Yeah, like they did with Ukraine, that they can just do, we'll just hack off, the 100 miles of Finland.
Yeah, or just maybe a minor excursion here or there, and since it's not a major invasion, we can get away with it.
So what do you think? I mean, you're an expert on this. You're an old intelligence guy. You speak Russian. You read their press.
If Putin does that, NATO doesn't enforce Article 5, then the whole basis of the NATO treaty is out the window.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's a major invasion or a minor incursion. An attack on one is attack on all. You have to enforce that.
Yeah. Do you think that NATO will enforce it, even if the United States won't go along with it? And if so, do you think that this could trigger World War III?
Macron is, offering to extend the French. I think they will.
Interesting.
And you have to stand up to aggression. It's like Hitler in the Sudetenland in September 1938 when he sold out Czechoslovakia, and the Brits and the French ceded to that. And, they gained a temporary respite, but they, down the road they had to fight World War II. So you either stand up to it now, for a minor price, or stand up to it later when it's a major war.
Is it your sense that a major war could be coming? I have had this feeling in my bones for several years now that that we're looking at the possibility of World War III here between China and Taiwan.
Yeah, definitely, because Putin, he's made his intentions clear. He wants to restore the old Soviet Union.
Yeah.
He said the greatest catastrophe of the 20th century was the fall of the Soviet Union.
Yep, and the dissolution.
He's going to keep pushing and pushing until he finally meets opposition to that.
Yeah, yeah.
Grim stuff. Well, George, thank you for the news report here from.
Yeah, and thank you, Tom, and keep up the good work. And I just renewed my subscription.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, George. Good talking with you.
Enjoy the weekend. Right, bye.
Thank you. You too. Mike in Gainesville, Virginia. Hey, Mike, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, well, the Supreme Court, I think yesterday was a total waste of effort, basically, because they only wanted that case to be heard for so they could ban district judges from having national injunctions. They could have used that time much more effectively to actually heard the merits of the case.
You know, the thing that I kept waiting for, and I assumed, frankly, that either Kagan or Sotomayor would bring this up, was for one of these people to ask the Solicitor General, the attorney for the Trump administration, why have you not brought back Mr. Garcia when we ruled 9-0? You have to do so.
Yeah, or at least ask about the facilitation.
Yeah, exactly.
Facilitation means only you could let him out of the jail.
Yeah,
that's the minimum facilitation, because you have to tell the dictator to let him out of jail. Then he can get his way back. Then any U.S. senator can pick him up and bring him back.
Yeah.
So basically, but I think the Supreme Court created this monster with the crazy immunity decision.
I agree.
So it's up to them to actually control them, and basically, if a national injunction survives district court appeals, it should automatically go to the Supreme Court. I mean, because basically the Supreme Court has taken away Congress's authority to basically control the president.
I agree, and in fact, this is why
we basically can't have any laws against corruption. So corruption is rampant now.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can't pass anything, and the Republicans now with this no tax on tips. That's not for really the workers that are actually getting tips. That's for the hedge fund managers.
Yeah,
they're
going
to say every money they make is a tip, just the way they said all the money they make.
I'm sure they're already doing it. I'm sure they're already doing it, Mike. And this is why I titled my book "The Hidden History of the Supreme Court and the Betrayal of America," because I would say that that the rise of Trump is attributable to a series of Supreme Court decisions: Buckley, Bellotti, Citizens United, and what's the one where they gutted the Husted decision that allows states to purge people off voting rolls, and the decision that gutted the Voting Rights Amendment. I'm forgetting the title of that decision, but those five decisions, in my opinion, brought us Donald Trump. And in addition to the immunity decision, but I mean, I'm talking about in 2016.
Well, of course, was George W. Bush in Florida, and the Democrats screwed up that one.
Yeah. Well, and not just the Democrats. I mean, the Supreme Court handed that to him.
Well, Mike, but I mean, when they asked for the recount, they should have asked for a statewide recount. They would have won by 700 votes.
I'm with you, Mike. Thank you for the call. Wow. Okay, we're hitting a break here. I'll be back with more of your calls on the other side of it. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, the place where despair is not an option. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Right back with more of your calls. Stick around. And welcome back. Patrick in Seaside, California. Hey, Patrick, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I wanted to ask you if you had any sources, books, articles, etc., on topics that it's a two-part question regarding topics you brought up in the recent months, basically Nazi Germany and the trans community. But before I ask my question and see if you have any sources for us, I wanted to say that, the Nazi Germany going after the research on trans and gender fluidity, et cetera, I keep thinking that we seem doomed to keep repeating the destruction of the Library of Alexandria every few hundred or few thousand years. It's just this cycle we can't break. Yeah. And I also wanted to ask MAGA, is it still okay if I bring my Beatles records to your next book burning? You in recent months, you said that that in the Weimar Republic in Germany, even up to this day, the most extensive research on gender research, on sexuality, gender fluidity, transgenderism, etc., was done by the scientists, and that the Nazis destroyed all of it. And the other thing that you, Renee's call earlier reminded me that I wanted to ask you this. I keep forgetting to call. The other thing was the Nazis went after the trans community first, and the LGBT community at large after that, and then immigrants. And we're seeing these same patterns, not just with Trump, but prior to Trump. So I wanted to know on those two related topics about Nazi Germany as far as gender and sexuality research, and the Nazis going after the trans community first. I mean, this is really obscure history, but I think it's history that all of us should know. Yeah, do you have any sources that we can, books and stuff we can get?
Yeah, well, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich by William Scherer, I think, is probably the most profound book about the rise of the Nazis. It's been decades since I read it. I don't recall if to what extent Scherer got into the whole trans attack, but Magnus was his first name. I'm forgetting his last name. Say it again? Hirschfeld, thank you. Who ran the Sexology Institute in Berlin, and that was the place that was first. That was the first attack by the Nazis, just weeks after Hitler took over. That was that major book burning that is that iconic photograph, and you can easily Google this stuff, Patrick. It's real easy to find. It's all over the internet. Aaron in the Morning, by the way, is the name of a Substack newsletter by a trans woman by the name of Erin, who has been on this program. And
how do you spell that?
E-R-I-N.
How do you spell Erin?
E-R-I-N.
Erin in the Morning?
Yeah, just go to Substack.com and there's a little search engine. Just plug in Erin in the Morning. It's a free newsletter. It's really worth subscribing to. She's got she's got a huge back library, a library of articles that she's published over the years, many of which deal with this. So, I mean, she's all over the contemporary stuff, since Trump.
This reminds me of a thing I wanted to bring up. Oh, are you still there?
Yeah. You got a couple seconds here.
If you and Luis have to leave the country, maybe you have to figure out a way that we can listen to you on shortwave and call you on CB radios if you have to leave the country.
Yeah.
But do it. We can't lose you. We need you, even if you're out of the country.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you for your kind words. It's 49 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us.
Roll up, join the fight. We're taking on the billionaires. We're bringing back your rights. The revolution's here. We're knocking on the door. Welcome to Bernie's anti-oligarchy tour.
Welcome back, 10 minutes before the hour. Picking up your calls here. Neil in Petaluma, California. Hey, Neil, thanks for listening to Sirius XM. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I just had this idea. I had an epiphany in the shower, and I had to share it with somebody. The idea that you would do a corporate tax, but it would be paid in company stock, actually new stock that the company would issue, diluting all the shares of the company as well as its stockholders. And in that way, the government would be able to collect as companies grew and as the wealth of the country grew, we could all share in it. And it would also be a tax that would be paid that wouldn't be a drag on the economy because it's not paid in cash. And even though there's a dilution, if you did it where the government couldn't sell the shares, say, for 5 years or so, that dilution wouldn't really be a ripple even in the stock market, I don't think. Just an idea, and I thought even Trump might like it.
Well, yeah, except it misses the main reason for a corporate income tax. The main reason for a corporate income tax isn't to raise revenue for the federal government, although it does that. The main reason for the corporate income tax is to control or encourage good behavior by corporations. You make payroll tax deductible. You make employee benefits tax deductible. You make research and development tax deductible. You make marketing campaigns for new products tax deductible. All of these things help the company, they help the economy, they help the average person and the worker, and corporations are incentivized to do them so that they can take tax deductions and reduce their tax burden. And so if they were paying it with stock instead of with dollars, I think you'd lose much of that juice, and that wouldn't be a good thing.
Well, actually, I'm not talking about reducing any current corporate tax that's paid in dollars. This would be in addition to any taxes that are there now.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, I'm all in favor of it.
Well, yeah, the idea is that by doing this, you'd start sharing the wealth of the country. As the wealth of corporations grew and as the wealth of shareholders grew, everybody would share in that instead of just the few who are able to buy stocks or the corporations themselves.
And you could also market it as a celebration of capitalism. Interesting idea, Neil. Thanks for the call. That was a good revelation in the shower. Thank you. Gail in San Francisco. Hey, Gail, what's on your mind today?
Oh, hi. A couple things. First of all, are you aware of Al Green in Texas, who put out his opinion concerning Trump, which he feels is the most vile person on the face of the earth?
Well, not just his opinion. He introduced articles of impeachment.
Oh, yes. He's great. He's great. And second of all, I've been listening to you since their only communication available was through the radio. And you introduced me to Bernie Sanders, which is a godsend. And I'm so glad you're here. But one reservation about Trump that scares the shit out of me. Excuse my French.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Gail. I can't let you go on when you drop language like that on the air. And apologies to anybody who might have been offended by it. Clay in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Hey, Clay, what's on your mind today?
Well, real quick, before I get to my question, you've had a couple of callers today and a couple of days ago about the abortion issue and, the mind, the brain. And I've said it, I'm so glad to hear people saying that because I've been saying that for a long time, that there is no such thing as a living human without a brain that's at least functioning enough to keep the body functioning.
Right.
If there's no brain, there's no life. So I don't know why that's not just a common sense thing.
Well, the problem in Georgia, the state of Georgia is not asserting that this 30-year-old nurse is still alive. They're asserting that the fetus in her womb is still alive.
But the fetus has no brain.
Yeah, at least it didn't have a brain at 9 weeks when she was, or a functioning brain anyway, at the 9 weeks when she died. But they're keeping her alive. Yeah, good point. Good point, Clay. Thank you. Gene in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hey, Gene, thanks for listening to KTRC. What's up?
Hello, Tom. Earlier in your program, you were speaking about Trump's potential week-long military parade birthday celebration.
Yeah.
And you said how there could be damage to the infrastructure in D.C. And I wanted to mention that in August 2004, President Bush's reelection campaign insisted upon a stop in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And the airport said that the main runway, could not handle the weight of the cargo planes, but they still did it. So there was damage. There were 2-inch ruts, with the cargo planes carrying Hummers and whatnot, and it was a hot day, and they had to back up the plane using thrusters. So the cost was about a $2 million repair, and there was crickets from the Bush campaign as far as covering costs.
Mm-hmm.
The Air Force had, well, they committed to $600,000 for the repair, and the city of Las Cruces aided for about $1.2 million. And meanwhile, they lost a lot of revenue because it took 34 months to secure the money and then do the repair.
Wow. And this was also Bush could do a campaign stop.
It was insisted upon stop there. So,
By
know,
who?
as a pilot, you've got your pilot's license or had
I
it.
do. I still have it.
Elevation and heat and weight are not a good mix. So I can say even in Albuquerque on a hot day, there are times with a 757, they might ask people to unload a little bit to have less weight.
Yeah.
It got the runway length because it links to Kirkland Air Force Base. But
sure.
Remarkable. If Trump
Joan,
gets
Gene, I'm sorry,
line-
I'm out of time. I got to run. Special thanks to Louise Hartman, Sean Taylor, Nate Atwell, Jamie Holly, Nigel Peacock, Sue Nethercutt, Patrick Hoyt, Geraldine Halbert, Ron Hartenbaum, Chase Spross, Nicholas Miller, Pat Sweeney, Jay LeBlanc, Jeremy Peterson, Connor Arroyo, Carne Verde, Martha Salinas, Mateo Robertson, Diane Russell, and Ruben Michaels, all the fine folks who work on this program. And thanks to you for letting your station know that you're listening. Thank you for supporting our advertisers and our stations. And get out there, get active, tag you're it. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch up with you on Monday.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
Hey, this is just a one-day fundraiser here. Please pay careful attention. For years, Free Speech TV has basically been missing something that has really kind of left some of our disabled or hard of hearing or whatever viewers kind of out in the cold, and that's closed captioning. So with your support today in this one-day fundraiser, we can fix this. Free Speech TV is launching a campaign to raise $10,000 to begin phasing in closed captioning across the network. They start with video on demand, bringing inclusive access to our most popular shows, but that's just the beginning. The long-term goal of Free Speech TV is make sure every Free Speech TV broadcast on air and online is fully accessible to everyone. So your donation today helps open the door to a more equitable future for Free Speech TV. And our frontline funders, Joe in D.C., Kelly in Denver, and an anonymous donor, have stepped up with $6,500 to match your donations. So your impact goes twice as far. So please, to support the efforts, go to freespeech.org/donate or call 877-378-8669. And while you're doing that, here's a very inspiring clip of President Franklin Roosevelt. I think you're going to love it. Here it is.
With hear nothing, see nothing, do nothing government. The nation looked to that government, but that government looked away. 9 mocking years with the golden calf and 3 long years of the scourge. 9 crazy years at the ticker and 3 long years in the breadline. 9 mad years of mirage and 3 long years of despair. And my friends, powerful influences strive today to restore that kind of government with its doctrine that that government is best which is most indifferent to mankind. For nearly 4 years now, you have had an administration which, instead of twirling its thumbs has rolled up its sleeves. And I can assure you that we will keep our sleeves rolled up. We had to struggle with the old enemies of peace, business and financial monopoly, speculation, reckless banking, class antagonism, sectionalism, war profiteering. They had begun to consider the government of the United States as a mere appendage to their own affairs. And we know now that government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob. Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
There you go. Franklin Roosevelt taking it to them, right? And that's something more and more from good Democrats out there. But anyhow, bottom line, this I believe this ad itself is going to be closed captioned, and that's really a cool thing. We want to do this for every show across the network, to make Free Speech TV more inclusive, more available, more easily accessed by a wider variety of people. And this is pretty important stuff, and it does cost money. I mean, it's going to cost Free Speech TV. I mean, like I said, they're trying to raise $10,000 today, right now. And so if you would call 877-378-8669 with a donation of any amount that you can, that you feel comfortable with, it will, and like I said, it'll be doubled. We've got frontline funders who have said that they will match your donation up to $6,500. So that's a pretty big deal. So please call now or go to freespeech.org/donate and make your contribution so that we can expand the ability of, or the number of people who are able to access Free Speech TV. Thank you so much for your concern.